Wait, no, wait. We have to agree on this. Hold on, because I'm conceding in good faith what I need to. Okay, you've got boatloads of Arabic people, fleeing their villages. You've got people walking down roads. You've got all this, and then you've got all the other Arab states who feel like, rightfully so, the Brits said we could have an Arab state here, and now you brought all these Jewish motherfuckers here. Okay, the ones that happen to crawl away from the Holocaust. Now these motherfuckers are coming down here to steal our. I think it's reasonable that they wanted to expel them all. Like, I'm not even saying that they're not justified. Like, bro, they should have fought as hard as they could have. Like, I don't even necessarily disagree at that point. It's 48. They're literally losing land here. Yeah, but I'm just saying to pretend. I'm just saying to pretend that no, they just wanted to live with them peacefully. Yeah, as much as like Pocahontas wanted to, suck John Smith's, and the natives wanted to live with settlers peacefully. No, of course not. They're being invaded by a foreign European colony, right? So I'm not even saying it's unreasonable.
And you imply that it was for no reason at all. Okay.
STV Philly debating Willie Mac about his Hassan debate. Oh shit. Does it start with STV Philly spending like 5 minutes caveating about how he's not trying to imply anything?
STV Philly. Hey, what's up?
What's up?
How's it going, man? Oh. Yeah, I
hear you. Go on.
Good. Okay. Good. What's up, Willie?
Hey, how we doing?
I'm chilling. Of course, Tom, what's up, bro? We talk a lot more often, I'd say.
Yes, sir.
So, Willie Mac, we got you here. I figured it would be best to ask you these questions myself, because a few nights ago, Tom was going over your debate with Hassan, and I called in and sort of got in a quasi debate with Tom over, how well I thought you did in that debate.
Yeah.
But so if you got a few minutes, this might take like 10 minutes or so. I'm not going to keep you on, stay on here forever, but there's two main points I wanted to make. And the first one is about the video that like jumped all this off, that precipitated, like the one you released like a week ago, right?
Oh yeah, there was two videos, but yeah, I think it was the hour-long one was the big one.
Okay, shit. Well, I wanted to talk about the one called Hassan's horrible response and his radicalized audience.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a few points you made in there that I didn't agree with, but just to put all my cards on the table, like I've been called it. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, my bad. My audio cut out for some reason. I don't know. Would you say there's a few points I made there?
Yeah, so there was a few points that you made in the video that I disagreed with.
Okay, what is it?
Yeah, so it's not so much your conclusion I disagree with, but there was a few points that kind of had me, just with a few questions. So let's start out like this. So what was your purpose with the whole Hassan saga? Like, what were you trying to bring to light about Hassan? And I guess like the three main points you wanted to kind of.
The purpose was he was a big streamer that was covering a lot of that has a history of covering breaking news, and he's gotten at least on the geopolitical side, it wrong consistently, because the sources he's citing is like all this weird alt media that really is not that credible. Usually it's just tweets. And I guess I just want to document being like, hey, look at this guy,
And would you say that's like dangerous?
What's dangerous?
Like spreading misinfo.
Oh yeah, dude, hold on. If you're a big source of news and you got 20 or 30,000 people watching you for your news coverage, and you're constantly getting shit wrong, and your framing is entirely based around.
You say, then Hassan says the part about how Gideon is whitewashing history, and then you say that Hassan's moving the goalpost, right? And then, so just so we're clear of what we're talking about, Gideon made a response video to a video called "The Most Racist Town in America," and Gideon's point was to go to that town and show that, look, guys, not everybody in this town is racist. Look, I've come across this person.
No, hold on. That's the point of, that was the result of Gideon's findings. I don't think his point was like to set out and do that.
Okay.
If, for instance, if he went to that town and everyone was calling him the N-word, like the original video claimed, then I think Gideon would have made a video about that. It's just a result of his research.
Fair enough. All right. So, and then Gideon comes to the conclusion, like, I cannot put that connotation on this town. But the
Okay. Oh, hello.
Oh man, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Okay, what was our last point / question / thing?
Okay, so before we start, do you have like a notepad or something open just to kind of, I want us to just agree on a few things before
for it.
Okay. Before you disagree with me on any of these things, I'm just going to list them out, and then you can fight me on any of them.
Okay.
First, Palestine is a state. is recognized by, I think, to date, 139 countries based on the 67 borders. Like, it's a state. The second one is occupation since 67 of the West Bank and Gaza is illegal. Third one is the settlements in the occupation, mainly in the West Bank now, are illegal. And yeah, those are the main ones. So, do we agree on those three?
So for the first one, I would say absolutely not. The idea that Palestine exists and is like universally recognized as having like 67 borders, I don't think it can just be asserted. I think that's argued for. For the occupation since 67 of the West Bank and Gaza is illegal. I don't know like illegal by what standard, I would have to ask. And then the settlements in the occupation are illegal. I'm also not sure like illegal by what standard. I don't know. When we say illegality, okay. I'm curious what we're appealing to here, yeah.
So for legality, I would say the legal occupation, I believe it's Resolution 3314. That kind of outlines how it's illegal. I can send you a link if you would like.
Does a UN resolution confer legality or illegality of a given action, or is this just condemnation by UN members?
I do not think this is just condemnation, but...
Where is it? Also, real quick, you said it was Resolution 3314?
Yes.
Maybe a different number, or...
Yeah.
Or am I... Hold on, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. Hold on.
I can send you a link if you would like. And the part I'm referring to, it says, reaffirming also that the territory of a state shall not be violated by being the object, even temporarily, of military occupation or of measures of force taken by another state.
Oh, okay. Why is this formatted so fucking weird? Okay,
I guess by illegal, I mean consensus, world consensus. Maybe I shouldn't say illegal, but the world consensus is that Palestine is a state. Is recognized by a lot of countries.
I can see what you're trying to construct here. I mean, I guess I could buy it if you want, but I think it holds no weight. It influences no argument if this is how we're doing our definitions.
It's fine. It's fine. I'm just saying that there's an occupation. Like, we don't even have to call it illegal. There's an occupation if you're fighting against the illegal part. Mm-hmm. And the settlements, I believe, are clearly illegal, as agreed on almost everybody. And you can refer to, I think there's a resolution 2334 for that one.
You said 254?
2334.
2334. Okay, hold on.
And like, we can disagree with what's written in Geneva Conventions, international law, UN resolutions, but that's not what I'm trying to, like, you can disagree with their conclusions, but it is what it is.
Sure, hold on. Yeah, I probably wouldn't even necessarily disagree with like the opinions and everything stated, but it's just especially now as international law gets brought up, if we say something's like legal or illegal, I'm just trying to have an understanding.
Forget those words.
Oh, yeah, if we want to say like wrong or like it shouldn't be happening, I probably agree with you on this. Yeah.
Okay, sure. And I think the Fourth Geneva Convention also prohibits the transfer of civilians from an occupying territory to the occupied territory. Article 49. But
okay.
Anyway, I think you don't really heavily disagree on these points.
Not in terms of like what's right or wrong or anything. Probably not. No, I don't think so.
Okay. I also, are you familiar with resolution? I know this is the last one I throw at you. 194. In regards to specifically the refugee problem.
Let me check.
It's a pretty important one just to keep in mind if you're going to
The United
to
Nations
people
General Assembly
like
adopts
people-
Resolution 194, resolving that refugees wishing to return to their homes and live at peace with their neighbors should be permitted to do so at the earliest practicable date, and that compensation should be paid for the property of those choosing not to return or for loss of damaged property, under which principles of international law equity should be made good by the governments or authorities responsible. Sure.
Okay. Okay, like we can talk about how practical that is or not, but it's there. Okay. So first, I saw a tweet of yours the other day, and I want to know if you were just like trolling or you believe that. So let me look up that tweet. You pretty much said something like Palestinians just like always walk away from deals and are influenced by like terrorist orgs or something like that.
Yeah.
So can you give me the list of deals that the Palestinians have walked away from?
The big ones that I'm most familiar with are going to be the Camp David Accords. No,
Sure.
it's the
And
Camp
also-
David Summit, and then Arafat's negotiating past that. Are the big ones that I'm familiar with. You could arguably say the partition plan of 47, although you could argue maybe they didn't have good reason to accept that. And then for like terrorist orgs, I would say definitely from like the 60s and onwards, I think the Palestinians have been more concerned with like fighting for like an entire state than trying to negotiate any sort of two-state solution. Yeah.
So when you say that, we need to look at the evidence. Like, let's start with each one, right? You said 47. I agree that there was no good reason to accept that. You can look at that as
Well, I wouldn't say there was
Palestinians
no good
rejecting-
reason to accept that, but I can understand them not accepting it.
Sure. I would start with Oslo. If that's fine with you in terms of like real peace attempt,
Sure.
or do you think there was others before then that were missing?
Let's see. Let me think.
Because I know the Madrid conference kind of led to Oslo, and but prior to that, I don't think there was any even recognition of like.
Let's see. I think it's 74. I think 74 is when the observer status was granted to Arafat and the PLO for Palestine to be able to talk at the UN.
I don't
think.
know. Okay, yeah, I don't know what that means because I know in 2012 there was they were recognized as a state, but maybe they recognized them as just like the voice of the Palestinians. I don't know.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like, I think that was the first time Palestinians had a voice. I have this written as in November of 1947. I mean, we can check what this means.
I accept that.
Okay. Granted observer. Yeah, I don't think they were like. I don't think they were recognized as a state or anything like that. But at the very least, the PLO had a seat for observer status.
agree.
So that yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah, representative of the Palestinian people. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Let me see. I'm just trying to think of like where any other two-state or any other peace with Palestinian peoples thought of post. My guess would be nobody's really thinking about that at all until post 73. My guess is going to be that. Okay, I'm just going to talk a bunch and cut me off if you think I'm wrong at some point. In 48, Palestinians are not looking to be recognized as a state. They're trying to expel the Jewish people from Israel because they don't want to ever separate that.
I disagree.
What?
I disagree. I think Jews lived in Palestine and Arabs there weren't trying to expel them.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about all the new ones that showed up, right?
Okay, yeah, just the Europeans. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Well,
they wouldn't have won. Which would have been like 90% of the Jews at that, or 95% probably the Jews there at that point would have been from Europe, right?
Sure, but I wanted to push back because this isn't like a Jewish thing. It's a European, colonizing thing.
I agree with you.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
It feels weird to say Israelis because it wasn't a country yet, but I agree with what you're saying. It wasn't. Yeah. So in 47, 48, obviously they're not looking for two states. In the 6-Day War in 67. They're not looking for two states. They're still trying to push them out.
Agreed.
For Yom Kippur, they're obviously not looking for two states. They're looking to push them out. And then
wait. 73. I don't know if Egypt's goal was to push them out as it was to like kind of get their shit back. We can talk about that in more detail. I don't think it's super relevant, but I don't think there was an attempt at two states between Palestine and Israel at that time. So at least that we could probably agree on. I think that didn't start until, like you said, the PLO was recognized as a speaker in 74. And then the first real peace attempt at the Madrid conference in 91 led to Oslo in 93.
Sure, yeah. I'm just trying to think of like what Palestinian attitude and surrounding states' attitudes would have been. And in 73, it was still very, 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 very hostile. towards Israel.
I mean,
so I don't
yeah,
think people
yeah.
are thinking at the same, like, okay, we're going to Yom Kippur, we're going to get them on this day, and then afterwards maybe we can negotiate too. Like, that's not, like, at that point, Egypt, I agree with you. Well, no, hold on. I'll say this. If they would have won harder in Yom Kippur, if they had the opportunity to conquer the entire state of Israel, they would have, right? Do we agree with that?
Maybe, yeah, I would agree with that. And like, as the Arab states as a whole, you're saying during 67, or sorry, during Yom Kippur,
Yeah, 73 they would have, yeah, but they obviously
they would have taken it over. I would push back on they're going to expel the Jews argument. I would say maybe, because at that point, I don't know what the percentage of the Jews in Israel were.
I would say that at this point,
Ashkenazi versus.
I would say that at this point there is enough like global violence against Jewish people from Arab states as a result of Israel's victories in prior wars.
It would have been bad. It would have been bad.
I
It
think
would have
it's
been bad.
safe, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if there would be like a mass expulsion. I
Also,
don't
really,
see that happening.
you're still in Yom Kippur. I don't even think you're 30 years away yet from like the Nakba, right? So the idea that, and we've got pogroms across every Arab state following the 48 victory, following the 67 victory. If the Arabs would have conquered all of Israel, I think there'd be a big expulsion. I think it would happen.
You're narrativizing this a lot.
What part of that do you disagree?
I don't think that every Arab state expelled Jews. I don't think that's a factual statement. You can find me examples of where that happened, but I think there's other examples where that did not happen. So
Sure.
You can't just blanketly say every Arab state.
Yeah, if you want, we can go back and look. But my understanding is that yes, in every single Arab state, there was a mass. There was like a mass departure of Jewish people. In response,
Departure, I agree. Push and pull, as Benny Morris kind of cites, that happened, and I don't doubt that there was a lot of violence post 48. Against Jews in those Arab countries. I don't want us to be like super like blanket statements like that. Like, okay.
Well, sure, but I'm guessing you would make a
Jews.
super blanket statement about Al Nakba, right? That was just a mass expulsion.
I think probably 95% were expelled, and 5%, or I would say 95% were expelled or were fleeing violence.
Well, hold on. Yeah. Because that second part is really important. Because from the Nakba, my understanding is maybe 10 to 15% were actually expelled, tops. I think, but like
no, that's not right.
So hold on.
When
I say expel, I mean like Jews going into the village and like kicking them out or destroying the village or whatever. My understanding is the majority of those 50% plus left because they heard of violence in other villages and they were like, we need to get the fuck out because Jewish people are about to come fuck all of our shit up. Is that not true? I'm curious.
A large portion did flee violence, like you say. I would
wait. When you say large, quantify, because my understanding is 50% plus they fled because they were worried that they were going to get fucking.
Let's say 50% for argument's sake. I'm not like it's 50%. Let's just say that. So
sure. Okay.
Are you saying that? Are you fine with saying 50% got expelled? In that case, like I know we don't have the exact numbers. I don't know if that's true either. So it doesn't. At
the end of the Nakba, it was over 700,000 Palestinian Arabs were displaced ultimately from where they had resided. That's a huge number. We're over 300,000. Like actually, they went into villages. That's just so many people.
Dude, Ramleh and Lid alone, those two villages that are near Jerusalem, a little bit west of Jerusalem, were completely expelled, and they were like 60 to 70,000 people. Like that's 10% alone. That's why I don't want to say only 10% were expelled. Like those two where they were like. Essentially death march towards the Jordanian army is already 10%. So if we're gonna go to every single
hold on,
village,
can you link me that story or whatever? Death march to the Jordanian army?
Ramleh and Lid expulsion. Let me see if there's a Wikipedia article on this. This could be from some like book that I've read, to be fair, but yeah, there's a Wikipedia article. I'm pinging it to you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. At the very least, I can show this guy my notes. Okay, hold on. Give me like 3 minutes. Let me just like read the intro to this.
Take your time.
Okay. Sorry. I'm so sorry. Hold on. My bad. Okay. I didn't know about this particular marching event. I will say if 700,000 plus were ultimately displaced, 50 to 70,000 residents in this town technically still fits within my estimate. I don't know how many other explosions occurred, but okay, sure. I don't, maybe it doesn't change any of our arguments singularly much, but like the majority, initially you were like, the Jews weren't mass expelled. They were,
so I stopped you. I stopped
you
at saying 10% or 10%. And I'm saying like, this is an example of at least 10% from like this one example.
Oh, wait, hold on, wait. To be clear, this is an example of at most 9.5%, not at least 10%. It's at most 9.5%, right? Because the outcome, this is 50 to 70,000 residents who, and this even says fled from or were expelled by the IDF, and the total number of expulsions was 711,000 by the end.
Yeah, but this is one village. Like, this is just 2 cities within Israel proper. We're not even looking at every other. So that's why I'm saying at least 50 to 70,000 people.
Sure, but I'm guessing this is probably like the largest one, right?
This is the largest, like, one-time one, for sure. But I think we're getting into, like...
Yeah, I agree. It could be 20, it could be 30% of people were expelled. It could be 40% of people were expelled. But,
yeah, I don't think it changes the argument in any way that there was an expulsion and there was like people running away.
No, we don't disagree on that though. But what I'm taking issue with is you saying that all the Jews that left all the Arab countries after the first and second Arab-Israeli war, to say that that was just them immigrating to Israel because they thought it was cool, I don't think that's for either.
No. I think a lot of them left fleeing violence. Okay. 100%.
Oh, okay. Then what do we disagree on?
I'm just saying, I don't think there was like a policy where Arab countries... And maybe there's some Arab countries like Egypt did this, but I don't think, like, let's say Morocco had an explicit policy of expelling Jews. I think them fearing persecution, escaping. But I also believe that some countries, like, they weren't fearing persecution and getting pogroms. Like, it didn't happen in every single Arab country.
Can you give me an example?
20-some Arab countries.
Yeah, can you give me an example of one you think where it didn't happen? And then we can look it up. I'm curious. Because my understanding was it was basically ubiquitous across the Arab world.
I mean, we can look up the Exodus in general, the 800,000 Exodus. Like, there's a Wikipedia article on the Exodus, and it kind of covers every single every country, and not every Arab country is listed in that
Jewish
list.
Exodus, not from fucking Egypt. What would I be? Arab-Israeli wars.
Yeah, the Jewish Exodus from the Muslim world.
I see it. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
In the 20th century, approximately 900,000 Jews migrated, fled, or expelled.
I don't know if we're even arguing anything here. I'm saying that every Arab country did not expel Jews.
Every Arab country. Hold on. Okay. I'll just read. Okay. So I see Exodus by country. I see we've got Morocco, Yemen, Iraq, Egypt, Lebanon, Iran. I feel like...
I mean, look, the fact that there's even pull factors at all, to me, is enough to say that they weren't all expelled or fled violence. I think that a lot of them were, again...
Sure, but I can't think of a single Arab state that I'm trying to think of that wouldn't have had violence against Jewish people. My understanding is pogroms were basically ubiquitous after 48 and after 67 because people were so mad at the wars going on in the Middle East.
Look, if you can show me pogroms every single Arab country where Jews existed, I have no problem conceding that point. Look, if you have any evidence for any of this stuff, dude, I will switch my thinking. No problem. I'm not like
sure. I mean, I guess we can.
Stance.
Yeah, I mean, we can start. I mean, we can think of like every Arab country and just go country by country. I guess we can start in the Middle East, right? So,
wait. Before we do this, because it's going to take some time.
Sure.
What are you arguing that I disagree with? I want us to like.
Yeah, my understanding is that I guess if you want, I could say not every Arab country, but like 95% of them. I don't know of any Arab countries where it was like, even though like here's what I would feel like would be the case. I could be wrong, by the way. I feel like if there was like 1 or 2 Arab countries where it's like the Jews here were actually like pretty chill and nobody cared, then I feel like, oh, okay, that would have stuck out to me. But I felt like after 48 and after 67, it was basically like ubiquitous that every Arab country started to experience violence against Jews, pogroms, and then the Jewish people, obviously they saw, Israel and they're like, fuck this, we're just going to leave, this sucks. And then they started fleeing.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I would say, and I think we could both agree on, is post 48 and post the expulsion / flee of the Palestinians from the region, there was a lot of violence against Jews in the Arab world, which led to a lot of them fleeing to Israel. I think we can just agree on that statement. I don't know if it's necessary to go into like exact semantics for how many in which countries. Like obviously there was violence in like 50, 51, and obviously a lot of them fled. There were some pull factors, right, that Benny Morris talks about, but there was some shift in population due to violence. I'm happy to concede that point, so we can just move on.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, so I don't know where we were talking about Oslo and jumped to this, but do you believe that Oslo was undermined by the Palestinians, or it didn't work out because of the Palestinians, or because of the Israelis, or both?
I'm leaning towards both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't think the Palestinians are at fault for the end of Oslo?
Something here. This is my intuition right now, and I could be. It's just an intuition, and I could definitely be persuaded. It feels like I'm trying to think. 93 was Rabin, right?
93 was, I believe, Rabin. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I think he
so Oslo Accords under Rabin,
or killed because of Oslo.
From 95 to 2000, was that Sharon, or was that Netanyahu's first turn?
I think Sharon came in 2001. I think Ehud Barak was right before Sharon.
Israeli prime ministers. Let me look up the dates on this. Let me just hold on. Oh no, some of these names I don't remember. So, okay, Begin was here for a while. Wait, what the fuck? Term in office. Wait. This is my fucking earlier. My bad. This was earlier Begin. Okay. All right. Netanyahu's first term was, from 96 to 99. And then Barak was for a couple years. And then after that, we've just been fucked. Okay. So from my reading and the vibes, that I have is that Netanyahu didn't really want peace to work. He didn't really want any of those negotiated things to work. So like the Oslo Accords, he was like not a big fan of them. However, when I'm pretty sure that if we go to from 96 to 98 or 96 to 99, if you look at the amount of settlement expansion in the West Bank, I think it slowed down dramatically, even under Netanyahu. I believe that process was still happening. That's one number that I remember. We can go and look up that specifically. So even though Netanyahu might not have wanted it to happen, because secretly he's like, fuck the Palestinians, I hate these motherfuckers, it still basically was. But my understanding is that like Arafat was like intentionally sabotaging it and didn't want anything to be permanently settled. So whereas Netanyahu might have passively been like, fuck this, whatever, we're doing this shit, Arafat was like, oh no, absolutely fuck this, we're gonna fight. That was my understanding of this. So I would say both are kind of sort of at fault, but if both of them would have acted like Netanyahu, it probably would have been okay. But Arafat is the one that's like tanking a lot of these deals. I could be heavily aggressing against Arafat right now in an unfair way as well. Maybe there's better stuff out there that I haven't seen of him, but okay.
Yeah, I would say you're absolutely, like, you have a narrative. I think you're sticking to it. So I want to push back on that narrative.
Yeah, go for it.
One, both before, during, and after Oslo, the building of Israeli settlements in the West Bank never stopped. To me, that alone undermined the entire peace process. Because if you're planning on withdrawing at some point, as agreed on, from Area C, you wouldn't be continually building settlements. And I can tell you the consensus at that time, the consensus in the Arab world was like, these motherfuckers are trying to make peace with us, but they keep building in our land. How does that make any sense? And that's what gave power.
Wait. Let's be like real quick. Let's be very clear here. When we talk about settlements, are you talking about like brand new settlements, or are you talking about like construction within settlements?
So if you go to the Oslo Accords Wikipedia page, and you just look through continued settlement expansion. Before Oslo, 91 to 92, 13,960. After Oslo, 94, 95, it was 3,840.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so these numbers are what I was talking about before. Yes. So these aren't new settlements. These are constructions within settlements, right? But
Destiny, this completely undermines the perceived plan to eventually withdraw. It makes absolutely no sense. It's like we're deciding on splitting a pizza, but you still keep eating a part of mine, like part of my half. It makes no sense, and it undermines it. I agree with you on one thing. I think Ehud Barak absolutely wanted peace. I think Netanyahu absolutely did not want peace. I think Ariel Sharon did not want peace.
Let's be very clear here. We can just read this paragraph. We can dig more into this if you want to, okay? While Perez had limited settlement construction at the request of the U.S. Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, Netanyahu continued construction within existing Israeli settlements and put forward plans for the construction of a new neighborhood, Har Homa in East Jerusalem. However, he fell far short of the Shamir government's 91 to 92 levels and refrained from building new settlements, although the Oslo Agreement stipulated no such ban. So, in terms of building new settlements, even under Netanyahu, my understanding is that didn't happen. And then when you look at like prior to the Oslo Accords, right, you had 14,000 new houses constructed from 91 to 92. After Oslo, in both years, even under Netanyahu, the number of new houses constructed in existing settlements fell to below 4,000. That's like a 60-70% reduction. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so in 2 years, you said 14,000, and in 2 years, so it's not 1 year. And then 2 years after...
No. I'm sorry. From 91 to 92 is 1 year. It's 13,960 houses were constructed.
So 94 to 95 would be 1 year too, right?
Yep, 3,840. And then from 96 to 97 was 3,570, yeah.
So you're saying they were just being less shitty during that time?
No, hold on. I'm saying there's one is the construction of new housing has dramatically fallen, which is good, number one. But number two...
This isn't new housing, Destiny. This is illegal, this is illegally building land on what you know is still being negotiated on. Whether or not they even agreed to pull out, there were still things to be negotiated through.
Sure, hold on. Let's just so we can understand what we're talking about here. I'm trying to make sure we're on the same page. If you have an area, okay, if you have, let's say we've got an area with four settlements, okay, in occupied territory. All right, we can either build a fifth new settlement. This would be building a new settlement. Or we could build more houses in our current settlements. These are two different things. Do you acknowledge that, or is
Absolutely.
this the same? Okay. So
I acknowledge there. Yeah.
So there are no new settlements made post Oslo Accords for several years. There were no new settlements, number one. And number two, even the amount of construction in existing settlements dramatically fell. It's not going to go to zero, right? They're probably still, if you've got an existing city, you're probably going to be renovating, bulldozing houses. You've got zoned for more houses or whatever. Like, it's probably not going to fall to zero. But the fact that this number fell from 14,000 per year about or whatever to under 4,000 per year shows that there was a dramatic decrease in construction within settlements and no new settlements were being made, even under Netanyahu, right? That's what
I would push back in the whole, like, I agree, right? Housing units were being built, still illegal. Like, I think
hold on, wait.
would stop building of new house. Like, a good faith negotiation is stopping of building new houses. And the final point I'm actually trying to make here is not that, there was. I think there was just like lack of agreement in this negotiation. So it wasn't the Arabs ever walking away and saying, "Fuck Israel, we don't want to make peace." That's what I'm saying. Because according to your tweet, Arabs have constantly walked away from negotiation table, and I'm trying to find
wait, let's go back. Okay, wait. Just on this particular argument, what I'm trying to show you is that, or what I'm attempting to argue for, is that even though Netanyahu secretly, or not secretly, openly was like, I don't want to do peace with the Palestinians, blah, 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 it seems like his actions were still showing follow through on trying to maintain the Oslo Accords. He didn't try to disassemble the Palestinian Authority. He didn't try to take power back from them or anything. My understanding is that all that transference and everything was still happening, even under Netanyahu. Whereas on the PLO side, Arafat was consistently walking away from a more permanent deal at the end of Oslo. Because remember, Oslo was supposed to be temporary, right?
Which deal he walked away from at the end of Oslo? I'm very curious.
Sure, fuck. Okay, I have to do better notes on this. I don't know if you've been, and also I totally admit, okay, this it could all be like lies and fucking propaganda or whatever.
No. I'm just asking for like.
No.
I'm happy to be convinced.
Yeah, no. I'm
right?
saying that because this is coming. That some of this is starting to become single source. Because I'm drawing a lot of Arafat's personal stuff from the interview series that I watched with the Saudi Arabian foreign minister to the United States. I think. Have you watched any of that on my stream? Have you watched that guy?
I have not.
So one of the things that he talks about is that multiple times him and other Arab leaders are trying to bring Arafat and I think
Oh, you're
Fatah,
talking about the Saudi guy?
Yeah. Trying to bring them to the table to get them to like negotiate deals. And consistently, Arafat will take a jet and disappear for a month, or fly somewhere else and go talk to somebody else, or just dip on discussions. And there never really seems to be real follow through on anything to actually get anything solid in writing. And so I'll say on one end, right, it's literally coming from arguably a Saudi propaganda channel, okay? So, and it's the Saudi Arabia foreign minister, right? So those could be biased. I totally meant that, number one. However, number two then, what I would look for is, has there ever been a point in time where Arafat or the PLO or any Arab leader was like, look, we had a really good deal on the table and Israel walked away? I have never heard that claim in my entire life. Has that ever happened? Or I threw a little bit in there, but go for it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, first of all, I agree on that one source you're calling is biased. If we go through this Wikipedia article, I'm curious to see at what point Arafat walked away. I think what happened is there was like disagreements about Jerusalem and some other things, and they just never came to an agreement. I think to say that that's them walking away is disingenuous. That's one. Two, I would say every single Israeli proposal and Israeli proposal for peace that has happened, that has come from the Israeli side, has never been defined as 67 borders, no settlements, and a just resolution to the refugee problem, which is what the world consensus is based on 242.
Well, so okay, on that thing, what you just said is that's never happening, right? That's a non-starter, probably.
It doesn't matter whether or not it's a non-starter. Like, look, I'm not trying to negotiate what the international consensus is. Like, you can disagree with that all you want, but it is what it is. Okay, so for you to say, oh, they're rejecting, Israelis aren't making concessions.
They are they are making concessions, kind of, in terms of like land swaps and everything. But if you're saying that like the conversation,
that's not a concession, Destiny. That's not a concession. Like, those land swaps are happening because of the settlements that are being built. Palestine wasn't building settlements within Tel Aviv, and they're saying, okay, we'll keep this and give you a piece of Ramallah. That's not happening. That would be concessions on the other side.
Sure.
Concessions are
if we're going to treat this like Israel is just a hostile occupier and took over random land for no reason and now holds it indefinitely with no other extenuating factors, then fine, I can agree with you. But
no, we're talking post 67, post 60, or even post 73, after the wars are over, right? Israel that becomes a hostile occupier.
Wait. You can't just say it becomes, after all of the other times where we tried to completely ethnically cleanse and eradicate you, now you guys are just occupying us hostily. That's kind of an unfair...
Cleanse. Yeah. Who was ethnically cleansing who, right? In 48, who was ethnically cleansing who?
Everybody was ethnically cleansing each other. What do you mean? There were Arabs.
Exactly. So if everyone was ethnically cleansing each other, like...
Sure, and then in 48 and 67, the stated goals from, at that time, Nasser would have been to cleanse fucking Israel of all of the people that had come from Europe. So that was the stated goal, right? They failed like 3 times. Which is fine, by the way. I'm not even like an anti-ethnically cleanse. I think ethnically cleanse is based sometimes, okay? When Israel ethnically cleansed all their fucking people from the Sinai, when they gave the Sinai back to Egypt, I think that was based. When Israel pulled and ethnically cleansed all their people out of the Gaza Strip and they pulled them out, I think that was fucking based. Okay? I'm not even saying it's necessarily a battle thing. I'm just saying that, like, it's weird. This is, and I feel this, okay? Because every day, okay, my blood becomes 2% more Jewish, okay? I can feel the inner Jew in me cringe when people are like, we just want peace after we failed to eliminate you in 48, we failed to eliminate you in 67, and we failed to eliminate you in 73. Now you guys are just big bullies occupying us, and we just want peace. Like, well, yeah, no shit. You failed murdering them 3 times. Sorry, God.
Okay. First of all, let the record show that I don't agree with any ethnic cleansing. Okay, I just want that.
Wait, hold on. Do you want all the settlements removed from the West Bank?
I don't want any ethnic cleansing.
Wait. Do you want all the settlements removed from the West Bank, though?
I want one state. So we can talk about that later. Okay.
Wait, so you don't think any of that? So you would, if Israel today was like, we're going to remove all the settlements from the West Bank, you'd say, no, I don't like that. That's ethnically cleansing.
I would want that if the Palestinian people want that.
So then you support some kind of ethnic cleansing, then, right?
No. Let me be absolutely crystal clear.
Okay.
I have no problem with Muslims, Jews, Christians living from river to sea with no one getting ethnic cleansed, everyone having equal rights.
Okay, but this is a fantasy.
Is that ever going to happen? Yeah, exactly. So let's start with fantasy.
I mean, in that
world.
case, like my goal is fuck one state. My goal is one nation. I think the entire world should just be one country, and we could all live together happily ever after.
I'm on board. Okay. Anyway, so back to your like, oh, they tried to like eradicate us.
Oh, also, hold on, wait, real quick, and then you can do this. I just want to clarify, I'm sorry, because everybody doesn't know, I didn't know the definition of this until like a month ago. I'm going to be totally honest. What does ethnically cleanse mean to you?
I think ethnically cleansing is expelling population based on ethnicity.
Yeah, or nationality, or I think religion can count. Yeah, okay, just so we agree there. Okay, so ethnically cleanse doesn't mean genocide. Okay, ethnically cleanse could just be like, I want all of the Jewish people to leave this area. Right? Okay, yeah.
I think those are two different things.
Yeah, they are. I just make sure people, because some people in chat, like when I say ethnically cleanse the West Bank, I don't mean genocide everybody in the West Bank. I mean like take all of the Jewish settlements out, which would be an ethnic cleansing. But okay, go ahead. I think, but okay, go ahead.
Okay, so again, and I know you keep saying that 242 is a non-starter, even though like you can say that, but when you say that, you're in a very small party of people saying that.
No, I don't believe that.
Okay. You're in a small party of people. I mean, let's just look at the votes, right? The yearly votes by the world. UK is 4242. Like, the majority of the world is 4242.
Hold on. First, wait. Number one, fuck the majority of the world, okay? Because they have no say even in this question. But number two, let's look at when 242. You understand that 242, okay? For this resolution, it also required the recognition of Israel as a state as well, right? You know that most of the Arab surrounding states, they didn't want to recognize Israel as well, right? Because I think it was not true? Wasn't it after 67, which is when Resolution 242 came? Wasn't it after that the Khartoum conference happened and they were literally like, no recognition, no negotiation, no peace with Israel? Those are the same people. They're like, well, they all supported Resolution 242. How can you say that? Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. So let's step back a little bit. When 67, the 242 brought down, and it's been pretty much renewed every single year since. Look what both sides have to say. This is the international consensus. That's my argument. This was the international consensus. I don't disagree with you. The Arabs are like, no, fuck this. Well, too bad. This was the international consensus. Okay, that's one.
Wait, what do you mean too bad?
As of 2002, the Arab League has proposed. We want security for Israel. We want everything for Israel based on 242 and 67 borders. This happened in 2002, where the whole Arab world was like, all right, enough's enough.
Yes, after failing to eradicate Israel like 4 times, they were like, okay, all right, guys, we got you. But I'm saying, for you to keep hearkening
to the 48 war isn't an eradication war.
Wait, of course it was. What do you mean?
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
The 48 war is fighting over land. Now, did they want to expel the colonists? Probably.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
The colonizers probably. Okay,
yeah.
I'm not doubting that. But for you to say, oh, Arabs, they just want to keep eradicating Israel, as if it's just like these like tyrants that just hate Jews, is just.
Whoa. Hold on. Whoa. Okay. I'm the guy here, okay? I'm like the only motherfucker that talks about this conflict. I don't think religion had fuck all to do with anything in before like the year 2000, okay? So it had nothing to do with wanting to eradicate the Jews. It didn't even have to do with the fucking Jews, because like you said, and I think we all agree, it was like 12 or 13,000 Jews already lived, like Palestinian Jews lived in that land for fucking 200 years or whatever anyway, right? Nobody gave a fuck about them. But they did want to get rid of all the European settlers that had come in, of which by that point, what were there, 350,000? 400,000, other less than I think the Palestinian Arabs. They absolutely wanted to expel all of those motherfuckers. Do we agree with that or not? Like, do you think when you say they wanted to fight over land, well, yeah, of course, the land that all of the European Jews had come and settled, or the European people had come and settled, right? And they wanted to kick them out afterwards, right?
Yeah. I don't know if they wanted to like kick out every single European Jew. I don't know if there was like a written policy, but I do agree that they wanted to like essentially destroy the state of Israel and create a state for either them, like a bigger Arab nation state or a Palestinian state. We can argue that, but
okay, sure. Wait, we have to agree on this. Hold on, because I'm conceding in good faith what I need to. Okay, there had already been. You've got boatloads of Arabic people, fleeing their villages. You've got people walking down roads. You've got all this shit. And then you've got all the other Arab states who feel like, rightfully so, the Brits said we could have an Arab state here. And now you brought all these Jewish motherfuckers here, okay? The ones that happen to crawl away from the Holocaust. Now these motherfuckers are coming down here to steal our shit. I think it's reasonable that they wanted to expel them all. Like, I'm not even saying that they're not justified. Like, bro, they should have fought as hard as they could have. Like, I don't even necessarily disagree at that point. It's 48. They're literally losing land. Yeah, but I'm just saying to pretend. Picture. I'm just saying to pretend that no, they just wanted to live with them peacefully. Yeah, as much as like Pocahontas wanted to, you know, suck John Smith's and the natives wanted to live with settlers peacefully. No, of course not. They're being invaded by a foreign European colony, right? So I'm not even saying it's unreasonable, but I'm saying to pretend.
Why do you use that as an excuse, as like, oh, you know, the Arabs, they've been trying to eradicate, like you like put this narrative in a way that, like you just said, it was just what they were trying to do in 48, right? It's like the way you tell the story, it's like the way the other side tells the story, like, oh, they were trying to eradicate them, and you imply that it was for no reason at all. You don't specify that it's just they justly tried to defeat them and expel the colonizers, right? Then we can agree on that.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me. I don't know how much of my shit you watch. Okay. Listen. Okay. I think that your take.
I haven't watched a lot.
Yep. And that's fine. And I think that your assumption of what I'm saying there, I actually think is totally fair, okay? Because when I hear people say certain things, okay, my assumption would be like, oh, you're saying that, oh, they tried to eradicate him 3 times for no reason, Destiny? Well, why are they so fucking mad? I agree with you, okay? That if you just hear me say that, you're probably grouping me in with like the Ben Shapiro's or whatever. Listen, I think probably up to fucking 73 at least, I can sympathize with the Arab states, definitely up to 67, okay? I can sympathize with them being like, we're gonna fucking kick you motherfuckers off this land, okay? They had area that was promised to them by the Brits that they'd lived in it for a really fucking long time, okay, that they backstabbed the Ottoman Empire hoping to gain control of, and all of a sudden a whole bunch of fucking white people start showing up from Europe to resettle the land. I can totally empathize with that. I think in 48 that first war happens and it sucks, and I think that there's still 20 years later, and not even, of course, in 67, I'm also empathetic towards them trying to go to war. I think that Saudi Arabian, what's his name, Badnir, or fuck, I should remember his name. He said it really well. He said that throughout all the history of Israel-Palestine, Palestinians had a really good cause with horrible advocates, and Israel had a really bad cause with amazing advocates. And I think especially from 48 to 73, you see that, where the moral authority probably was with the Arab states, but Israel just did a good enough job at defending their shit that like eventually they've established themselves, and now we're here today and we need to deal with what's coming after. The only reason I'm saying all this though is I'm just saying that like it's not fair, much like me saying, oh, well, look, all the Arabs are trying to kill the poor Jews for no reason. That's retarded. I don't even bring up anti-Semitism. I think it's retarded. But it's also not fair to say like, oh, like Jewish people won't even settle peace with the Palestinians and all they've ever wanted is peace. That's bullshit too. Both these groups of people have been at ends with each other for at least the first like 50 years of Israel's existence. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. The reason why I brought up what I brought up is because when I mentioned the 2002 proposal by Arabs, you were saying, yeah, well, after they tried to eradicate Israel 3 times in 48, but according to you, those times were just. So to use that as a way to say, well, why should Israel accept them? Like you said, you said that their proposal was like, well, yeah, well, it's because they failed. Yeah, they failed. Like, what are we supposed to like, keep going wars forever? You said that those.
Well, I know that's a difficult thing.
Attempts were. Yeah. You said those attempts were just, right? To 48 and 67. That's what you just said. Right?
Sure.
Okay,
well, but hold on. But also, I've said this before too. People can feel just on both sides, and I think there is a strong argument that Jewish people or I wish there was a better way to say it, because I don't mean Jews. I'm not talking about fucking Jews.
No. I'm talking about
Israelis.
Zionists.
Zionists, sure, yes. I think that unfortunately for the Arabs, okay, Hitler kind of fucked a whole bunch of shit up, because I think prior to the 40s, when you've got these Jewish people moving in, and you know Herzl and all these other people, but even he was dead by then, right? All these Jews saying, "Listen, we're getting persecuted all over the world. Like, can we please have a place to live?" And blah blah blah. And like, maybe, right? But, you know, like the first and second Aliyah, I don't even think we're that successful. The first one, fucking like it was like 12,000 poor Jewish farmers showed up and like died. Like nothing happened. No one gave a fuck. But once anti-Semitism and shit, I know that the Russian Empire sent a decent amount of Jews down to Israel, and then the fucking Holocaust happens. I'm sure at that point, Jewish people are like, okay, well, holy shit, the Zionist argument, it's not just Zionism. It's like, do we want to survive as Jewish people or not? So I feel like if you're a Jew coming down to like a little place that now some Jewish people have carved out, and you're like, well, fuck me, I'm running from the concentration camps. Again, I think that the people moving down, I empathize and I can feel their justification. That doesn't mean that it's like universally right. And I also understand the Arab justification for wanting to fight back. I don't think that one side here is like clearly in the right and clearly in the wrong. That's all I'm saying. Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
I think, and I want to be very clear on my position.
Yeah.
I think because when I grew up, I had a very one-sided view on this conflict.
Sure.
I think once I tried to like be more like impartial and think like, why do Israelis just want to kill all of us? Like, it makes no sense. There has to be like so I dug in the history, and I understand like they needed a refuge, right? They're getting persecuted all around the world. They needed somewhere to go where they were safe. It's hard to argue that. And I think Finkelstein, even though you push back a lot of things he says, I think he does a good point trying to grapple with that, because he actually believes that there needs to be a Jewish safe haven. He said it before. So I don't disagree with that. I think at the same time, it is unjust to do it on other people's land that had nothing to do with that conflict. Now, moving past that, when I said the 2002 Arab Initiative, you immediately pushed back and said, well, they were trying to eradicate. And I feel like that was an unfair pushback.
Okay.
I think
for that 2002 proposal also, was this an Arab League proposal?
Yes, and it was unanimously voted on.
Okay, hold on. Was this Arab, because I don't think I've written all these down,
I mean,
but was this proposal including an infinite right of return?
I think there was one that included a just resolution to the refugee problem. But before we get there, I don't want to skip over Camp David.
Sure. Yeah, you're fine. Okay.
Let's just go in order. So my point for Oslo was essentially the Arabs didn't just walk away. I think there was mistakes probably made on both sides, and I think there was fundamental disagreements. And again, I think, and maybe you disagree with me on this one, 242 is the basis, as the majority of the world has agreed on. You can say that 242 is bullshit and unfair. I'm not trying to argue whether or not it's fair. I'm trying to argue that's the world consensus. Okay, there's a distinction here. And every single negotiation has begun with 242 as being the starting point. That's why whenever I say Palestinians have always had to concede in every single one of these negotiations, it's for that reason alone. This is the starting basis. If Palestinians were saying, okay, well, give us a piece of Haifa, right? Then I'll be like, okay, now we're asking the Palestinian side is asking the Israeli side to make concessions. That's not what's happening here, right? And the land swaps, again, I don't believe are concessions because it was forced upon the Palestinians.
Okay, you know what?
By these settlements.
You know what? Here you go. You know what? I will agree with you in the strictest sense of the word, okay? I would accept UN Resolution 242, okay? However, we have to go back to, okay, you know the meme where the guy's like, show me a car, no, a real car, no, and then it's like that meme? We need to go back to the real 67 borders, which means Israel withdraws everything from the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, and the Golan Heights, and the Gaza Strip goes back to fucking Egypt, and then the West Bank goes back to fucking Jordan, because those are the 67 borders. And then once they've re-annexed those territories fully, then they can figure out if they want to separate those into a country or have the Palestinians declare whatever, and then they can figure that shit out. Because it feels weird to me that Israel.
That's not what 242 says. 242 says that 67 borders are with Palestine.
But Palestine didn't exist in that doesn't make any sense.
See, you're arguing again. You're now arguing 242. I'm not here to argue 242. I'm saying 242 is there and it's the world consensus.
I don't care. Then the world consensus is wrong. This is a fact of the matter. I'm sorry. Wait, you don't even disagree with this. In 1966, who owned the West Bank? In 1966, who owned the Gaza Strip?
Jordan owned the West Bank.
Yep.
Gaza,
that they conquered in 48, and Egypt. And Egypt owned the Gaza Strip that they conquered in 48, right?
Okay. So you're saying give the entire thing back to Jordan. But Jordan has already said, okay, we want to give it to the Palestinians. Egypt says we don't want Gaza. Give it to the Palestinians.
Wow.
So
wait, hold on. So now, 75 years later, now that they lost the territory, now they want to give away what's not even theirs to give away anymore? Do you see how this sounds like a little bit fucked up?
Wait. Okay. Again, we're getting lost in the sauce.
No, I don't think this is lost in the sauce. I think this is really important, right?
Dude, you can be against 242. That's fine. You can be anti 242. It's there. Okay. Like, I'm sorry, it is what it is. It's there, and every single peace negotiation has started at this starting point. Like, you can't argue that. I'm not going to argue every single term within 242, and I agree that within 242, all the Arab states have to acknowledge Israel and its security. And I actually believe a majority of Israelis, if they were guaranteed safety and protection, they would want 242. So
I'm curious, do you have the text of 242? Does the text of 242 actually say Palestine in it?
let's look it up. It's more of like I think it's more of like Arab Israeli, like an
Bro,
Arab
this
state,
Jewish virtual
Israeli
library,
state.
this website is so based. Okay, all right.
Again, so like
Oh,
you
the
could argue,
Palestinians are not mentioned anywhere in Resolution 242. The resolution applied to states in the area. It kind of seems like the territory needs to go back to Jordan and Egypt then. No?
Okay, but I mean, I'm happy to read through 242 with you
Sure,
if
you're
you would
good.
like. Whether it's like a non-Palestinian Arab state, it's an Arab state, right? Its borders for two states is what I'm arguing.
Oh, wait,
okay?
hold on. Wait, now they're all Arabs? I thought before the Palestinians were a unique and distinguished people. Don't you call yourself a Palestinian American, not an Arab American?
Yeah,
Sorry, that was a
Palestinians
personal.
are, yeah.
But I'm just saying, hold on, let me back up. I'm sorry, hold on. I'm sorry, that last attack was super personal and uncalled for. My bad. That was really dumb. Okay, let me back up a little bit, okay? All I'm trying to say is that, like, the wheeling and dealing that's happening past this point, okay? There are ways that I can understand how it's being done. I understand it, but god damn, it feels so slimy on one end. Like, even this conversation of like, we need to go back to the 242 borders. Oh, you mean back when Egypt and Jordan's conquest was good? Because Jordan, I don't even think Jordan, which I don't even know Jordanian history, but they seem like the most pussy country in that entire region. Jordan, I don't even think they fought against Israel. I think they just conquered up to the Jerusalem and they stopped. They were like, all right,
like one thing that both sides can agree on. I think this is like the one. Like,
yeah, I don't even think Jordan cared about it. They were like, oh, we're gonna take some land. Egypt conquered up to the Gaza Strip, and then they stopped because they couldn't go any further, right? So they conquered their territory. In '67, Israel got it back, and then after that, like, okay, guys, this isn't fair. Let's go back to the prior borders. That, like, first of all, Palestine wasn't even a country yet. So now you've got countries that have lost territory in war 60 years later saying we need to go back to the prior borders and give these people a state from territory that we'd already conquered and lost. Like, why didn't they give Palestinians their own state in 48 when they conquered it? What happened in those 20 years?
I think that the conflict had shifted from more of a Arab-Israeli war, because at first it was the Arabs that were promised by the Brits, blah, 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 right? So it was like the whole Arab world. And again, like, this distinction between countries, even though the people were different, they were still like all under Ottomans, but obviously they weren't Turks. But I'm just saying, I think it shifted from Arab-Israeli war to more of a Palestinian-Israeli conflict. At some point, we can argue about when that timeline happened.
Sure. Because
the Arab states just kind of were like, fuck it, we want to make peace with Israel. At least Jordan and Egypt did. We don't want anything to do with this area. And I think you can't argue, you can disagree with it, but you can't argue that 242 hasn't been the agreed upon world consensus. Actually, I believe at some point Israel even agreed to 242. And that's why every single negotiation that has ever started begins with that as like a... And look, 242 doesn't call for the return of all refugees. It calls for a just solution to refugees.
Well, whatever that means, though,
problem.
which is always up for debate.
I mean, which is like, I think Taba was like very close to coming up with that resolution.
Taba had such a good... Yeah. My issue is that, like, when we talk about some of these Security Council resolutions, okay, and maybe it's not fair for me to pick and choose. Like, maybe I'm just, like, choosing the ones I like and disregarding the ones I don't like. However, you said you're un-American, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes in Congress, you ever notice how... this happens a lot with like the squad. You ever notice how there's like a bill that will pass the House and it'll pass with like comfortable margins, but there'll be like 10 people that vote down on it from like the Democratic side because they disagree with like the climate change. It's some ridiculous shit. But like people will look at that, and I think non-politically savvy people will look at it and they'll go like, oh my God, like they voted in opposition to their party. That's some crazy shit. But if you know what's actually happening, they're probably talking with Pelosi back when these votes are happening. The squad is talking with Pelosi and like, listen, you have the votes to pass this, right? Okay, we're going to dissent because it's important to signal to our base and our voting record and blah, blah, blah. But like if it came down to it, they would have voted. If they needed those votes, they would have voted with the party, right? For some of these Security Council resolutions, the reason why I'm not as concerned with them sometimes is sometimes they feel like a virtue signal. Like when you're getting Security Council resolutions that are clearly non-starters, that involve a lot of states with like no understanding or interest in the region, and then like even the text and everything is like kind of ambiguous or weird. So for instance, in 67, this resolution 242, I don't even think it mentions the state of Palestine. All of the language is like very vague. I don't know that like appealing to, well, look at 242 as like some codified legal doctrine in terms of how to separate out the Middle East. I just don't think it carries much weight. It's just like my feeling on it. Not to say that I don't think Palestinians should have a status, but yeah, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
242 is it's not like was like a one-time vote. It gets renewed to my understanding, on a yearly basis, and it's not like this, like just some banana republic states that are voting with against two. It's like a lot of Western countries, right? Even America, I can try to find where they've agreed that 242 is the starting point of this conversation. But again, you can disagree with the content of 242 being a non-starter. I'm not arguing whether it's a non-starter or not. I'm arguing it's there. That's it, and that's the starting point of every resolution or every attempt at peace that's happened. And I'm also saying, kind of going back, because I have like one more hour.
Oh yeah.
Oslo, the Arabs didn't just walk away.
Okay.
I can't say that.
Okay.
I think there was a disagreement on both sides on the final pieces, and it never came to fruition. Okay, that's one. Camp David, fast forwarding a bit, and just stop me from saying anything that you're seriously disagree with and want to discuss.
The only thing,
Camp
here's
David,
what I would love to see, okay? And I'm being so serious, okay? Because I'm a centrist, okay? And that's where all of my credibility comes from. So it sucks that I'm standing this hard, okay, unironically, as a Zionist dick suck, okay? If I could find statements or evidence or something that's showing me that Arafat is working hard from 93 to 2000, he's really making a good faith effort to try to figure out, like, what are we gonna do? Like, why isn't Israel working with me here? Why can't we make any progress here? I would love to see that evidence so that I can at least say, well, look, you can't deny that in 95, 96, 97, like, they really are trying to do this. They really are, doing their best work. Because all I see is, obviously still, there was more construction settlement on settlements, but the construction of settlements stopped. The construction within settlements dramatically declined by like 70%, even under Netanyahu. But when it came time to finalize Oslo, I feel like every single person I'm listening, what?
Dude, there was just disagreements, and the disagreements, like, if you look at what those disagreements were, they were all, like,
where?
None
Show
of
me
them
those.
were outside of. Hold on, none of them were outside. Like, if you look at why 242 failed, if you go through that, I don't know what you're reading, what this like source that you're reading is. I feel like you can just read the actual 242, like, if you wanted to get information about it. But
wait, what source is for what? What do you mean?
I think if you're reading through 242, I don't know, your stream might be delayed. If you're reading through 242, I think we should actually look through 242, the actual resolution. I don't know
if you want
this is
to, yeah, but it's like a virtue sig. There's like nothing here. Here, I'll link you the actual text, but there's like nothing. It's like 20 lines. We can read this in like 2 minutes if you want. Resolution 242, expressing the continuing concern with the grave situation in the Middle East, emphasizing the inadmissibility of the acquisition of territory by war and the need to work for a just and lasting peace in which every state in the area can live in security, emphasizing further that all member states in their acceptance of the Charter of the UN have undertaken a commitment to act in accordance with Article 2 of the Charter, and then 1, we affirm that the fulfillment of Charter principles requires the establishment of a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, which should include the application of both the following principles. Subsection 1, withdrawal of Israel armed forces from territories occupied in the recent conflict, and subsection 2, termination of all claims or states of belligerency and respect for and acknowledgement of the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence of every state in the area and their right to live in peace within secure and recognized boundaries free from threats or acts of force. And then 2, it affirms further the necessity for guaranteeing freedom of navigation through international waterways in the area, B, for achieving a just settlement of the refugee problem, and C, for guaranteeing the territorial inviolability and political independence of every state in the area through measures including the establishment of demilitarization zones. 3, requests the Secretary General to designate a special representative to proceed the Middle East to establish and maintain contacts with the states concerned in order to promote agreement and assist efforts to achieve a peaceful and accepted settlement in accordance with the provisions and principles in this resolution. And 4, requests the Secretary General to report to the Security Council on the progress of the efforts of the special representative as soon as possible. So when this was adopted, clearly they're talking about giving land back to Jordan, Syria, and Turkey. That's unequivocal. That's what we're talking about here, right?
Lebanon, but yeah.
Lebanon for the Golan Heights, yes. But we're not talking about like making Palestine. They're not even mentioned in here, right? So when you say over and over again, like, oh, they all keep reaffirming 242. First of all, after 242 came out, next month was the Khartoum conference where all the Arab League said no peace, no recognition, no negotiations, I think, right? With the three guys.
You're really sticking on that. Okay.
Of course, they all said, yeah.
Sure, but like you said, you thought they were just, right, in those wars. And I think the same year of a war, obviously, after being defeated, you're not going to be super for peace. That's why I like to I think we're harping on history when we don't need to. Okay?
Sure, I agree.
think
We can back away from this
242
if you want, but I'm just saying that you keep harping on. Everybody keeps agreeing to 242. Yeah,
it is what it is.
It is, but 242
It's-
is the ass pain of 3 Arab countries losing a fucking war to Israel and wanting their land back. That's what 242 was. This recoloring of 242 is, no, 242 is about making a Palestinian state. That's bullshit. It's not. That's not what 242 is ever about.
242 is the starting point for a resolution between Israel and Palestine.
No, it's not. It has nothing to do with that. Hold on, I need you to know that 242 had nothing to do with Palestine. 242 was to give land
hold on.
back to Jordan.
Give the land back to Jordan and Egypt, and whether they want to give it to Palestine, you're saying, okay, that's fine.
That's up to them at that point. Yeah,
you're getting to the same. So if Israel didn't believe that 242 was a starting point, they wouldn't start there at all. Like as those borders and land swaps, like everyone. That's what I'm saying when I say everyone agrees with it. I'm saying that's what has been the basis of every negotiation.
Sure. If you want to talk about like the
least?
Borders and everything prior to that, then yeah, of course, that's about the starting point. I would agree with that. But that's different than saying 242 is the starting point. That just the borders of pre-67 are the starting point. I would agree with that for sure.
So the borders of 67 are the starting point, if you like that terminology more.
I'm saying that's where some of the talking points is. Realistically, for negotiation, no, that's never happening. But everybody knows that. Not even the Arab states expect Israel to go back to 67 borders. Nobody on the planet is expecting this except for Iran, Hezbollah. No, I'm sorry, not even those guys, because they just want a one-state solution. Nobody on the planet is expecting Israel to go back to 67 borders. Nobody.
What are you basing that off of?
On the fact that there were so many people were telling Arafat that, bro, the deal that you have at the time. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Like you clearly are like stuck in this like point in time in your research, right? During because when you were saying some of these things like that, no one in the world wants 67 borders. I don't know what you're referring to because it's like almost the exact opposite even today. So. It's just a weird claim to make that no one wants 67 borders.
Did any negotiation ever between Israel or Palestine start with even Arafat saying the 67 borders are the starting point? Even Arafat's expressed goal before Camp David, I think, was 93% with land swaps. Right? Nobody, not even Palestine starts from the 67 borders. Who in the world is saying, I mean, you might be able to show me speeches that say in public or whatever.
Let me sit.
Yeah.
If you want sources for where countries have stated that that they recognize Palestine based on the 1967 borders, I can show you that.
Well, but okay, so I understand that some Arab leaders will make.
So if there's 100, not Arab leaders. If 138 countries recognize Palestine based on the 1967 borders, you can't say that nobody expects.
I don't care about random countries. They're all virtuously cucks. It is. They're random countries. I don't give a fuck about them. Israel, if you show me 140 countries that agree on something, and Israel sees that 140 countries agree on something, but the dissenters were Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Saudi Arabia, do you think that Israel gives a fuck that the other 150 countries on the other side of the world give a fuck about what their consensus is? That's not what matters. What matters is who your neighbors are and who's trying to fucking kill you. That's the only thing that matters to Israel when it comes to negotiations, right?
Wait, who's Israel? Who's Israel's neighbors that are trying to kill them right now?
Today, it's just Iran, I would say, and the Palestinians. But
I think neighbors is a little bit of a stretch. One, and two, to say Iran's trying to destroy them, it's like a topic I don't even want to get into, honestly.
Okay, I think it's pretty important, but go ahead, yeah.
All I'm saying, as of 67, for you to say that no one wants 67 borders is untrue. Like full stop.
Okay,
when
then here, you can shut me down.
No one wants 67 borders is a full stop untrue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, let me clarify my statements further, and then you can tell me. And listen, I seriously am. Okay, and I understand it's hard to have all these sources right off the top of your head. Okay? But if you can find me shit here, okay, I would love to see it. Okay. There might be countries, okay? Greta Thunberg might say, hold on. That's not a fair summary. I'm sorry. There might be a consensus in the UN saying, 67 borders, we recognize this and blah, 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 okay? And there might even be some Arab leaders that in speeches go, we respect our brothers, bless them, whatever. They can have the 67 borders, okay? But when it comes to actually negotiating any of these deals. I have never in my life heard any Arab leader talking to Arafat. I haven't even heard Arafat himself. None of the Israeli, nobody has ever started those negotiations with, all right, guys, we're starting with 67, goddammit. Now let's go from there. It's always been.
Why would there be, okay. Why are there land swaps? Why would there be land swaps if that's not the starting point? Why would Israel agree to give pieces of Israel to them for that 6 or 5%?
Yeah.
If
they're agreeing to land swaps for a couple reasons, okay? Yeah, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on any of these. One is the West Bank needs to be a contiguous state, okay? This autistic fucking roadmap for peace or whatever the fuck came under Kushner and Trump, this crazy smattering of like cum spraying onto a fucking map is ridiculous, okay? So contiguous land is important, number one. Number two, okay, because Jewish people are fucking insane and they've built so many fucking settlements past like the Greenland or whatever, they've clearly encroached on some of that West Bank territory. Israel should be willing to offer back some land, good land, not Negev desert bullshit land. They should be willing to offer back some good land to Palestinians for development.
Why does it matter if they build? I mean, according to you, there's no 67. Like the 67 border is not the starting point. So what is the starting point?
The starting point, well, Arafat's starting point initially, I believe, was 91% with like 5% land swaps. And by the end of the Taba summit, he either got up to 95 or 97%, I think. It might have been 97, but I know 95 at least. And then he walked away with no counteroffer because he just wanted to fight in the second Intifada.
So for another resolution, sorry, I didn't want to throw another resolution.
You're good, go for it.
But
keep throwing them out, the more the merrier, yeah.
67/19, where it says reaffirms the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination and to independence in their state of Palestine on the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967.
Give me, bro, this is a 2012 resolution. Hold on, let me check.
That's why when I say that 138 countries recognize Palestinian based off those borders, I think that's a resolution you should look into if you plan on debating people on this. And I don't want this to be like a debate, more of a discussion and understanding your viewpoint, my viewpoint, and trying to dig through what the facts are. I'm not trying to get you, and I'm happy to move where needed based off of facts.
Bro, get me all you want. I don't listen. As long as you're not getting offended, even though I made one or two personal stuff, I shut up. You can get me as much as you want. I want to be God, okay? I seriously don't mind. If you throw resolutions at me and shit to read, I have no problem with that whatsoever. It's totally fine.
Dude, I hate the pro-Palestinian voices, advocates that are just yelling, right?
I don't care if you yell. As long as you're not retarded. I don't care if you yell. You can yell all you want. Just don't be an idiot.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, I want to convince you based off of facts, not just yell genocide.
Yeah, okay? That's fine.
We can negotiate whether a genocide is happening right now. That's fine. Discuss whether it's happening. All I'm saying is for you to say, and I think you're going to get a lot of pushback on this, at 67 borders isn't the starting point and isn't recognized by a majority of the world. You can say the majority of the world is wrong. You can say like only the 7 countries that disagree with it are right, but you're in the minority. Full stop.
That's
quick question.
Go for it. Real quick question.
Yeah, real quick question. So the one claim, the 1967 borders being like a consensus among the United Nations, I don't think anyone's disputing that. I don't think anyone disputes that, there's this 1967 ideology. Like, sure, yeah, that completely agree. I don't also think anyone's disputing that the 1967 borders, that there's a ideological consensus among the UN that should be what is people strive toward. I think the point of contention is what is that exactly meant by this term starting point? When you say starting point, do you mean that when Israel negotiates with the Palestinians, be it the PLO, or if they plan on negotiating with Hamas or whatever, with any land swaps, is the claim that what Israel is going to do and what they have been doing and what they've always been doing and what they will continue to do is say, oh, well, when we look at all of the land swaps, well, we give you this land, you give us this land, we're just going to redraw the starting point, as in before we agree to anything, we're going to pretend that we have this land, you have that land according to the 1967 borders, and then make the land swaps. Is that what you're saying is the starting point?
I think...
Sorry, go ahead, Destiny.
Well, I was gonna say, I think when he says starting point, he means like this is your moral starting point. So if your negotiated starting point is 91%, you're already like morally super in the wrong, because you should recognize that the entire world is saying the 67 borders are what we recognize. How can you say you're approaching a conversation in good faith when we're ignoring the fact that you want military installations, you want air control, you want no blah blah, you want no land armies, you want demilitarized zones that you patrol, all of that, and you're not even starting at the 67 borders, which the whole world recognizes. You're starting at 91%. 81%, you're out of your mind morally. I think it's like the argument that he's making.
So to be clear, then, it's by starting point, we don't mean that's where we start. We pretend that's, or like we act as if the controlled land is at the starting point of the table, and to negotiate from there. By starting point, we just mean this is what the international community considers just, and so that's the thing that we're trying to strive for.
Right. That's my case. Yes,
because that's a very different, because it gets confused a lot. Because like when I was hearing this, it sounds like, oh, this is just the recognized consensus of starting point for negotiations, and it's like, starting point, just like the starting point is the current situation.
Sure, but you'd have to recognize that if your starting point for negotiations is super far off your starting point for where you're morally supposed to be, that if there's too much daylight between these two positions, negotiation is not only impossible, it would be immoral to do so. It's literally the MLK quote of you can't put a timetable on another man's freedom. That you can't begin a negotiation so far behind, you would lose all moral authority, and you'd lose the ability to expect the other people to even come to the table for negotiations, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine to say, like, okay, the starting point is just really, like, the literal starting point is just really far off from where it is, and so in order for things to be taken seriously, there needs to be something, if not at the 1967 borders, something a lot closer. At least according to the UN, at least according to the international community. Of course, pragmatically, I have doubts about how close to the 1967 borders things will get, but that's a different discussion.
I mean, okay. we got close in Taba. And we'll get to Taba too. I just want my whole thing was like, yeah, like 67 starting point. It's not who controls the land right now at this very moment. Obviously, that's not the case. But I think the reason why Ehud Barak was willing to give the Palestinians so much of the land is because 67 was kind of seen as, okay, this is what the international community recognizes as Palestine and Israel. Stop. Blah 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 blah.
That's not what 242 said. We have to agree on that. That is not what.
No. That's all 242 said. Okay. I'm looking at like what you're. Go ahead. I don't know. You're going to read what the 67 /
Oh, I saw this. I see this is a General Assembly resolution. Was the partition plan a General Assembly thing, or was that like a commission?
I think this specifically was for the vote on recognizing Palestine as a state that like 130 some countries agreed on. If you look up 2012 non-observer state, something like that.
Sure, but I'm just saying I'll say, because I'm trying to poke you a little bit, okay? That you're harping very big on this like this UN General Assembly resolution, but you also told me before that like, well, Resolution 181, which was the partition plan, that was a bullshit resolution that they should have accepted, right? Even though I think that had a majority vote, right?
Sorry, 181. I think was sorry, what are you saying? You're saying that I think that they shouldn't have accepted? Well, I think this 181 was like the first UN General Assembly resolution when the UN was created. Like this was like their first problem.
How can it's called 181? There must have been 180 before this, right? Is that not how it works?
I have no fucking idea. I just know that like Arabs, in my mind, and this can be biased on my side, you can push back on me if I am, had a just reason to push back on this. Now you can say, well, Israelis have a just reason to push back on the other one. I would say like this is like we're in the midst of a war at this point, and a colony has just been removed in Britain. Though this is a little different.
Sure, but then don't you think that
the other one has been renewed for decades?
Yeah, right? But don't you think Israel might feel like that resolution is bullshit? So, well, first of all, trivia question. Do you know where do you think the borders pre-46 even came from? Or not pre-46, pre-67 came from, right? Those weren't even real borders at that point. Those were just armistice lines after 48. And I'm pretty sure they were explicitly armistice lines because nobody even wanted...
49 armistice line.
Yeah, 49. Yeah. I don't think anybody even wanted those to be permanent borders. Probably because Israel might have thought they could have gotten more, and probably because the Arab states thought they could have pushed them to less. So those borders from 49, those weren't even real borders yet, right? Because those Arab states were like, fuck you, they're military lines. Then later on, they get invaded again. But then they managed to push back and take more land. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's go back to the pre-67 borders. So just to be clear on all of this, right? So one, the pre-67 borders were not for Palestine. They were for conquered Arab territory, number one. And number two, the pre-67 borders, even those weren't real borders. Those were just armistice lines that the other Arab states had bilaterally agreed for each one. I believe there were 3 or 4 different armistice agreements with the surrounding Arab states that they would be temporary military lines. So to go back to all of this, and now today, be like, okay, well, obviously, guys, this is the border of the new state of Palestine. Do you understand why on the Israeli side, you're like, okay, now I'm going to go back to my other narrative. It is, right? But when they're saying like, okay, well, you tried to eliminate us in 48 and you failed. Then you made military borders. You tried to eliminate us again in 67. And not only did you fail, we conquered more land from you. You tried to surprise attack eliminate us in 73. We got even more land. And now you're trying to say, well, we want to go all the way back to 67. And we want to play PCs
there. Why?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know why we're going back to do you know why that like this conflict is even ongoing? It's because there's a group of people, like if Israel wanted to just take over the entire land and make everyone citizenship, then it's like, okay, yeah, well they fought militarily, they won the war, everyone is a citizen. But they don't want that. And that's why this situation is so unique. They don't want the people, they want the land. Right? This isn't like Israel wants the whole land. No, they don't want the whole land.
Well, hold on. So here's where I'm going to fight you on two things. I'll fight you on two things on this, and I welcome you to prove me wrong, okay? I've heard this given a lot, okay? And the only two good examples, or the only two, really one thing is like this Plan Dalet being drawn up in 46, I think. Plan D being drawn up in 46, okay? But I will say there are two really strong pieces of evidence to the contrary for Jews and Arabs living together, that Jews would have been willing to do it. One was they accepted the 47 partition plan, which I believe had Arabs as 45% of the Jewish state, number one. And number two, when Israel declared independence, as part of the declaration, they literally invited to build a peaceful state with Arabs, I believe, in their country. But then obviously all the wars and everything happened. Now, there was already some expulsion happening in 47, I understand that. But like, it's hard for me to look at what happened at the start and be like, yeah, Jews were definitely going to kick everybody out initially, 100%. It's hard for me to buy that. Do you have a more compelling piece of evidence saying that, like, well, that was always going to be the case?
No. Okay, wait. I think we're talking about two different things. I'm talking specifically right now about the West Bank. If Israel wanted to, they can annex the whole thing, as well as Gaza, and just make the whole thing Israel. And guess what would happen? Everyone had to become citizens. Why will that not happen? I mean, this has been discussed by, I think, the last prime minister of Israel. They wanted to annex Area C because they said, oh, we will only have to take in 90,000 Palestinian citizens. That's why they wanted to annex it and kind of further enclave the Palestinians into whatever is left. That's why they don't want to, because the demographic problem.
Yes,
right?
probably. Most likely, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they call it in the Knesset, like, demographic time bomb or something like that.
Yeah, that's why they pulled back. As much as people want to give Israel credit for it, my understanding is the whole reason for pulling back the settlements from the Gaza Strip were to shore up the demographics, possibly in preparation for annexation of places in the West Bank. It wasn't, they didn't leave the Gaza Strip to be nice to the Palestinians. They wanted to shore up, I think Sharon, and I think Netanyahu, I think there's a whole bunch of people on record saying that, like, yeah, of course this is our goal, is to shore up our demographic strength in Israel. Yeah.
Okay, so we agree on that then.
For sure,
and I think that's what makes this conflict unique. It's because you can say, well, they lost the war, get over it. Well, okay, they lost the war, make them all citizens. Imagine the Native Americans in the U.S. like not getting American citizenship. It wouldn't make any fucking sense.
Well, hold on, wait. When you say that, because we have to talk to the uniqueness of the situation. Has there ever in the history of all of mankind been one country that conquered another that had a demographic majority over them and then made all of them equal citizens?
Well, there's never been a minority. I don't think there is. Which
because I don't know if that would ever happen ever. Like when the German Empire was expanding, I could be. I'm trying to. Hold on, I'm thinking about this. I'm really retarded. When Hitler was expanding, because technically they weren't even a real democracy at that point, I guess. So maybe not. Because I was going to say, let's say that like Hitler expanded and he conquered, the height of the, I don't know if you call it the German Empire. At the height of Hitler's empire, he had a whole bunch of fucking land. Let's say that the borders like ended and it stopped there and he won and all that. Do you think he would make all of those other countries equal citizens in terms of like their like huge federal elections or whatever? If they were all subjugates of the Third Reich, do you think that would happen?
Not familiar enough with that.
Sure, that's kind of a bullshit question. I understand, but like I don't think anybody would ever do this. I don't think anybody would ever be expected to do this. That if they took over some territory, if there was like a country of 1 million and they conquered a country of like 3 million, and then they made all 3 million people citizens like the 1 million. Like I don't know if that's ever happened ever in the entire history of all the world. So I think it's a little bit strange to accept like, oh well, obviously Israel should just annex the West Bank and make them all citizens when they've all been terrorist attacking and trying to kill them for 75 years. Right.
Which I would push back on so heavily.
Okay.
Trying to kill him 75 years. Okay, so like again, I want us to get back on track.
Yeah, go for it.
In this like last 40 minutes.
Wait, can I grab I want to grab a Red Bull real quick, like 15 seconds. Okay.
Sure. Okay, go for it.
Okay, go for it. Hit me up. Smack
And if
me.
we don't have any, if we don't have enough time, I'm happy to do this again. I don't want to like suck up all of your time, but it's like I really want to get to everything eventually.
I have no
including
problem with
Gaza,
this. We can do this
including
for
Hamas.
for days. Okay, I have no problem. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So then I'll try not to rush as much, and whatever we don't get to, we can just talk about another time.
Yeah, sure.
So, going back to what you had tweeted, pretty much said that Arabs always walk away from the, and I just feel like that tweet was you were narrativizing a little bit.
I am,
something that
100%.
wasn't actually the case. Like Arabs didn't walk away from every single deal. There was a disagreement in negotiations. Like in 2001 in Taba Summit, where all the negotiators said, this is by far the closest we've ever come. What happens? I think you've actually alluded to this before. It's hard to negotiate with democracies. There was a change in leadership, and Ariel Sharon was like, fuck this shit. We're not going to give them a state. And it kind of ended negotiation there. That was the closest they came.
Wait.
Let's go to Camp David, actually. Let's go to Camp David.
Yeah, sure.
Because
we can do that. Okay, yeah, because the timelines on that are really important. Because I thought Taba.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, we can do Camp David if you want. Right
There was a walk away, and I think I know what you're talking about. So for Oslo, do you think that that there was just like disagreement on the negotiations? Yes or no? Or do you feel like Arafat just walked away and said, well, actually, fuck it?
Okay, I might need to read these better. Okay, tell me if I'm wrong. The Oslo Accords was, I think, it was supposed to be a 5-year transition process where
Correct.
slowly,
within that time they negotiate the final points.
Exactly.
And they never agreed on those final points.
Yeah, that's the issue. Yeah, and so that's when the Palestinian Authority was created. That's when more security and everything was handed over to the Palestinians.
Correct.
But everybody was hoping or expecting that by the end of the Oslo Accords that something is going to be negotiated. Yes, and then my understanding, and then this is where I settle everything on to Arafat, is it seems like Arafat was unwilling to seriously approach negotiations ever, to the chagrin of every other surrounding Arab leader. That's my narrative. That's my understanding right now. Yeah.
You're going to have to prove that, because I know you probably like got most of this from that Saudi Arabian guy, and I challenge you to actually like go through what the negotiator said at the time, why both sides obviously blame the other, but I agree. I recommend you actually read through that first before saying Arafat just never wanted to negotiate. Because if every single thing that Arafat wanted, maybe we can both agree was like unreasonable, was given, I would say there'd be a Palestinian state right now.
Hold on, wait. Say that one more time. Say what you just said one more time.
I'm saying if Arafat, every single thing he had asked for, right, that they were negotiating on, was given to him, I think there would be a Palestinian state. Okay. Maybe we can say what he asked for was too much.
Well, I don't disagree. If I am to understand the negotiations, I don't think there's conflicting viewpoints around this, but you can tell me if I'm wrong. My understanding is what you just said did happen, and that's why there was so much frustration. That I think initially, when he went into Camp David, I think he was looking for either 91% or like 93% with like 3 to 5% land swaps or something. That's what he went in. But as the negotiations progressed, every time Arafat got more, he wanted more, and the goalpost would move on what he ultimately wanted. And that by the end of, I think it might have been the end of Taba Summit, maybe we don't want to jump in there, but by the end, the offer was so unbelievable, in terms of what he had gotten, that the fact that he still walked away made everybody feel like this fucking piece of shit. He's not negotiating good faith. He's not actually looking for a deal, because he came in, he's getting way more than he even initially asked for. I don't even know if Jerusalem had been gotten up to yet. And then he didn't make a counteroffer and he walked away. And I do have like 6 or 7 different quotes around other people that he was basically, I don't want to say planning the second intifada, but planning the second intifada. That he was always planning on like going to war basically with Israel at the end of Taba Summit, after Camp David.
Okay, I don't think. Okay, I don't know about moving the goalpost. I'll have to read into that, but I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
Sure.
I'm reading through like criticisms around why this failed and how it undermined Israeli security, how it undermined Palestinian security. How it seemed like, from what I see, both sides just disagreed.
I don't get that. My understanding is there's a really big deal that there was no counter offer made by Arafat, that he just walked away at the end.
Let's table this as a point we need to get back to. Oslo, did Arafat just blankly just walked away and did not want to negotiate, because I don't think that's true. I think there was just a disagreement on a few things, and even if he was moving the goalpost, and you're gonna probably get annoyed with me saying this, it probably still was within the 67 border agreement. So
For sure.
I don't think he was asking for a part of Tel Aviv. I think he was asking for, maybe less settlements in the West Bank and more of that land given back. Now, moving on from Oslo to Camp David, I do believe that Camp David, they got really close. There was some disagreements, and there was a few months later, they had the Taba Summit or something, and Taba Summit, they got very, very close. I think you mentioned this, 100,000 refugees would return, all that stuff. I don't know if East Jerusalem was going to be seen as the capital, but it was very close, and in my opinion, probably the most ideal outcome for this conflict.
After Taba Summit?
Yeah, I think Taba Summit was the closest they got. And I think there's quotes from negotiators on both sides saying, this was super close, and if we had 6 more weeks, it would have been a done deal. It happened at the fucking worst time because democracies suck, and there was a change in leadership in Israel, and Ariel Sharon said, fuck this. So in my mind...
Wait, hold on, let me real quick.
Yeah, let's go to it. Let's go to it.
Well, I was going to say, I believe Sharon was after Taba Summit, a couple months after that, because I think it was the failure of David and the Taba Summit that is what ushered Sharon in, because people are like, this is fucked, nothing is ever going to happen. And that was basically the last real stab, I think.
I believe
Taba Summit.
I think Ehud Barak is the one that actually suspended the talks because of the upcoming election. But we can look into that.
I will say though, however, okay, and I'm gonna be totally honest here, okay. I need to find more sources. I'm basing a lot of this because this is coming directly from that Saudi Arabian guy's talk, okay. I will say that according to that guy, Arafat had a history of playing on incoming administrations to fuck around with the deals that they were negotiating. That this is something he'd done back in, was it with Reagan or was it with Bush Senior? I think Bush was Reagan's. What?
This feels like hearsay because I can give you some Arab negotiators that are probably going to accuse Ehud Barak of being, a piece of shit too.
I'd love to see that if that's true.
Ariel Sharon being a bigger piece of shit. And
well, hold on, wait. We're not just talking about being a piece of shit, okay? Sharon, keep in mind, Sharon's prime ministership was during the Second Intifada, okay? That was a wild fucking time in Israel, okay?
Yeah.
But the issue, it's not about who's a piece of shit. The only reason why I'm likely to believe that Saudi Arabian guy is because he references so many big names in terms of conversations he's had. If he was lying, holy I feel like there would be so many people coming out, especially people around these administrations, being like, bro, why are you lying about this shit? But he would talk about how Arafat would draw out conversations to the end of a presidential term, hoping that when the next guy comes in, he could make a better agreement with him. And that shit would get scuttled and fucked so many times because of Arafat playing these games. I noticed that when I looked on the Wikipedia page of that Camp David, I think there was even a little comment there, it was there was a guy on the Ask History subreddit that wrote about this, that Arafat would wait, somebody would ask, can you give us a clarification on this? And he would wait 4 days to even respond for simple clarifications on things. Arafat's letter was not a pragmatic step at peace. It was an attempt to say that he'd responded to the parameters after taking 4 days to ask for clarifications on the terms of a deal that would fit on 2 or 3 sheets of paper. I say this colloquially in handwritten notes. I'm telling you all this so much because I want you to come back and say, actually, look at all these guys that I'll take a fucking Assad, I'll take a Syrian leader even that is saying well, no, he says that, Arafat was good. Anybody but Saddam Hussein, show me anything that shows, I would love to see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I would say to this piece is I don't necessarily think Arafat was the best faith. Okay. What I'm saying, and so I can agree with you on some of those points. I still think that everything Arafat had asked for, even if the goalpost was being moved, let's say I believe that. I haven't read that, but I'm just going to take that as fact. I still think it was within, it wasn't outside of the parameters of the 67 borders. And
yeah, but that's not relevant to anything. Sure, but that's not relevant because that's not what any of the real negotiations start at, our 67 borders, right? We don't.
I don't know if you can say that. I honestly don't.
Well, even
know if you can
Arafat
say
didn't
that.
go into Camp David. Hold on. Have you ever seen a part?
Yeah, because they were desperate, dude. They were desperate for something, and I think Arafat fucked up not going into Camp David asking for the whole thing. These people are desperate for a fucking state.
Okay, well, okay,
And
so here we are today. Okay, I'm skipping ahead a bit. I'm just curious, just before you have to go. Okay, so today, the Arab world has largely turned its back on Palestinians. Okay, most of the leadership doesn't give a fuck anymore. I don't know if any leadership gives a fuck about Palestinians anymore, except for terrorists. So their position is only weakening, in my opinion. And I think that even at the time, it doesn't require supreme prescience to know this, okay? Past 79, when Egypt signed the peace deal, the dominoes were beginning to fall, and Palestinians needed to figure this shit out ASAP. Because since 79, it's just been one country after another basically saying, fuck you guys, figure your shit out, we're just gonna work with Israel now because this is some gay shit. And just moving past it. And now the situation is more dire than ever. Would you say today that like the Palestinian conversation needs to start at 67 borders? Like it just seems like it's so far out there, delusional take to me. Like it's not even, they have no friends anyway. Well, okay, go ahead. Yeah,
I disagree on first of all, I think the consensus in the Arab world is very much still supporting Palestinian cause. I'm not saying the Arab leaders, I'm saying people, right? The people are very much pro-Palestinian. I mean, Algerians and Moroccans have been saying we wish we were on the border of Israel, blah, 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 blah. So I don't think the consensus among the people is fuck the Palestinians. I think very much the opposite.
For the people, leaders, I would agree, yeah.
Leaders, we can probably agree on, Egypt for sure doesn't give a fuck. Jordan tries to give a fuck politically because 70% of the population is Palestinian. The king's wife is Palestinian, so they try to pretend they care. And I think they do it with the agreement of Israel, hey, by the way, we're gonna say this, but we're still cool, kind of situation.
Yeah. I think that the leadership is walking a tightrope right now, where they're trying to appease their population with these statements of I think someone withdrew their ambassadors after October or after the Israel, But largely, I think the leadership is over it. They were signing deals, they're doing shit. They're this is fucking retarded. We're moving past it, unless. Maybe in the next month or two, Israel happens to kill 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 more Gaza citizens, then maybe you'll start to see leadership change because the public pressure becomes untenable. But I mean, they're all fucking monarchs, so who knows?
It's
but
pretty fucking wild that we're almost at 20,000 dead in Gaza. That's roughly 1% of the population there exterminated. Pretty crazy. But I want to talk about Gaza as a whole separate thing.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, you don't agree that 7 borders are the starting point. Next time, I'm going to come with you with much more clear evidence on why it's a starting point. I still think it's a starting point. I think the resolution we saw in 2012, clearly the countries think it's a starting. Other countries believe that it's a starting point, and they recognize Palestine within those borders. From what I understand from that resolution.
Wait, which resolution? Say that again. Sorry. In 2012.
67.
Oh, the 67.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
Yeah. I think most of the countries still recognize Palestine as a state within those borders. You could say, well, fuck those countries. Those countries are just trying to virtue signal, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. It's there. You said you don't believe the occupation is illegal because I remember last time you had mentioned that, well, it's not technically a state, so what are they occupying? My pushback to that is, well...
Or sorry, I'll let you finish, go ahead, yeah.
I was going to say, well, when a majority of the world believes that Palestine is a state and recognizes them as a state, so I think that counters the argument to, well, what are they occupying? And I don't know if you were just thinking or trying to I don't know if that was your actual stance that it's not an occupation of. Yeah,
I'm sorry. The only thing I'm focusing on, I'm being a huge legal dick here, is just because we've done now a little bit of international law. When I hear somebody say illegal, I'm looking for an ICC ruling or an actual, not just a UN resolution. Although UN resolutions can indicate illegality or whatever. But I think I largely agree with you. Obviously, the occupation is wrong. There probably should be a state. When I hear terms like illegal, I want to be really, really, really careful. Yeah.
Okay. But there is an occupation, at least, whether or not it's illegal.
Of course, yeah, obviously, yeah.
Okay, and
the occupiers are Palestinians on future Israeli territory. No, I'm just kidding. I'm saying, go ahead.
And the settlement is the settlements are illegal. You would agree on?
I've read I think I've read legal arguments on both sides. It seems to me like it should be illegal, but I don't fucking know. It seems like it should be.
Okay, I want to read the Fourth Geneva Convention for you. Prohibits the transfer of civilians from occupying powers territory into the occupied territory. Very clear, close, open and shut. case to me.
Okay.
If you can find me references to international law saying that these settlements are legal, would love to see it.
Okay.
So settlements are illegal. There's an occupation in West Bank and Gaza. You agree that Gaza is still under occupation, or do you disagree with that?
I don't know if that's illegal. To me, like it seems like in all but name, it's an occupation. It seems to me like it is. Some people say that since they put the actual military out, it's not. But I mean, like it. I mean, yeah, it seems.
Yeah. The argument is there's three components for an occupation. One of them being military presence. So the people that argue it's not an occupation is because the military presence is gone. So there's like arguments going back and forth on that. But there's definitely a blockade, and according to international law, a blockade, as was the Suez Canal by Egypt, is an act of war. Okay. So
well, but you need but there. I mean, you can have a justification for a blockade, right?
No, I disagree.
You can never justify any blockade ever.
Well, it depends what kind of blockade, right? I don't think there's a justification for blocking food from entering somewhere.
Well, if there are other ways for the food to get in, then that would be just the justification, right?
Sorry, you said if there's other ways for food to get in.
Well, yeah, it's not like the only way.
So you're saying because of Rafah. So you're saying that since there's like food can get in via Egypt, do you think?
Wait, hold on, not just Egypt. There's like 7 different crossings. I think Egypt is one of them, right? Into the Gaza Strip.
No, there's I believe 3 crossings. 2 are Israel, 1 is Egypt, and the one through Egypt, I believe Israel bombed the Rafah side of the Gaza side of that border. And they don't just allow as many trucks as they want to go in.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. I think maybe initially there were 6 or 7. Since 2011, apparently there are only 2. Crossing points on the Israel-Gaza border and northern Erez crossing, or maybe there's 3. Okay, did you say 3? You just said 3.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
3. Yeah.
I thought initially there were 6 or 7, but yeah, the argument being that Israel makes is that they allow food and aid in through the crossing that they control. That they're allowed to do that.
Okay, so we're gonna fast forward a bit.
Okay.
Because I wanted to kind of hit on like. We were talking about this last time, the right to resist an occupation. What does that mean? And when international law states that in resolutions 37/43 that includes the right to armed resistance. Now, civilians are protected, right? Any attacks against civilians is not considered resisting occupation, okay? That's my position. I think attacks on military outposts is a different story. Now, do you disagree with that? Do you agree with that in the West Bank, attacking any kind of military infrastructure is legally allowed under, I don't want to say legally allowed, but like considered armed resistance according to international
My understanding is the answer to that is yes. That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, so then any attacks on Israeli soldiers, so there was a debate about whether settlers are fair game or not, and I think the consensus is that settlers are not fair game unless they're participating in hostilities.
Sure.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Like if they're like burning homes. Like,
do you ever do any utilitarian shit or whatever?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like how this plays out in the macro sense, because I'm saying yes to this, but I feel like this can't be the case. Okay, let's say that the military. We'll say in World War II, let's say we're occupying Japanese islands or we're occupying German territory or whatever. Let's say that as we go in, since the United States would be occupiers there, the civilian population has an internationally recognized right to resist militarily. Doesn't that mean that if you're moving in, you're basically incentivized as a military to start killing all the population or cleansing them or rounding them up and putting them into camps? Because why the fuck? Because if you think that they've got like an
why would you let them? If they're allowed to attack you, like why would you like let them live? Is kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah. Can I get a link to the language of this? Because now I'm curious. For when we say resistance, does this mean like random acts of random acts of violence against an occupier, or does it just mean fighting against like an invading army?
Let me try to find something on this. Mm-hmm. So you'll have to give me a second.
Yeah, no problem.
I just gave you a link. Something I just found. I believe this specifically calls out the armed resistance piece, and that had given an example as well.
Jesus, fuck this website. Come on, UN.
think there's a good PDF, the English PDF that you'll have to download. That first one. Yeah.
I'm an idiot. Don't watch my stream. Hold on. I'm sorry. I thought it was more Jewish than it actually was for a second there. All right, or Arabic, I guess that was. Okay.
Did you open the S? Did you just open the Espanol one?
No. My mom is Cuban. Okay. I forgot my stream that was mainly English, so. Okay. Control F. I can't. Oh, it's 3 pages. Can you?
I think just start from like 3743.
Okay.
Or just look up armed. I think if you look up armed, you'll
I can't.
see.
I don't think I can Control F this. Can I? Oh, I can. Never mind.
Should be able to.
Including armed struggle.
Look, we're both not lawyers, so I don't want to harp on this too much, but I think there's a justification that can be argued, at least, to attack military infrastructure in the occupied territories.
Well, hold on. This is a very vague. So I'm curious. At least in U.S. law, usually these terms are defined elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
What does the UN define as armed struggle? Because armed struggle could just be like soldiers are invading and you can shoot back at them before they take over your town. But it sounds like you're making it sound like they would have the right to like pop out of their houses and like shoot soldiers in the back who've been occupying a city for a month, right? Not just, I made yours sound extreme. Yours might not even be wrong. I'm not sure. I'm just curious. I'm just curious if there's like a definition for this somewhere.
Okay, you like personally, do you feel like if people are under occupation, they should have the right to resist via like attacking the military that's occupying them?
Oh, dude, I'm gonna be so honest with you. When conflicts arise between different states, I have a really hard time figuring out like what's right or wrong, because I feel like there can be so many conflicting things that I don't know what to like. I can appeal to like either the U.S. legal system, or I can appeal to a moral code, but I have a really hard time doing that between multiple countries.
Yeah, I'm saying I think this has been debated for a long time for the Palestinian case, and we can go through like the findings of or the people arguing on both sides and or what that specific clause in that resolution means. I know that Hamas continuously will say like we have the right to resist occupation under international law, or another group will say like we have the right to, the Palestinians have the right to resist. So it's important to like know that, okay, they're not just like saying some random shit. There's like something that's at least acknowledging a right to armed struggle. Now we can define that, we can argue about the definition of that, but they are making a case to fight. Now, it's very important to know, I'm not condoning or justifying or anything. I'm just trying to like explain one side's.
I'm also curious for this right to resist thing or whatever. Is this something that's like explicitly called out in some international law or in the UN, or is this like something that's being derived from another charter? Kind of like
let's see.
Yeah, like the right to privacy in the United States doesn't exist in our Constitution. It was kind of like a constructed right coming from several other amendments.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
Because I see here like Fayez Sayeg, I don't know if I'm saying, derives a right to resist from the Charter of the UN's recognition of an inherent right of national self-defense in the face of aggression. Resolution 2625 explicitly endorsed a right to resist subjugation of people to alien subjugation, domination, and exploitation. And then based on this, many scholars argue that the right to resist exists in customary international law where self-determination is at issue.
Okay, before we get stuck again,
yeah,
and we're gonna come back to all this. I just in-laws are having a Thanksgiving dinner, and
you're fine
to go to it. But so I want to I want to make sure you understand how brutal the occupation is. Like let's say when there's no conflicts going on, because it is so brutal beyond what a lot of people understand. Like, for example, there's military codes that the settlers don't have to live by that are living in the West Bank. They live by Israeli law, whereas the occupied live by it. It includes Military Code Order 101, where if you are gathering with a group of people, 10 or more, you need a permit from the Israeli military. And if you don't have that permit, it can be seen as some kind of political participants, and you can end up going to prison for it. Another one is throwing stones. You can end up going to jail for 10 years in Israel. So when we're seeing this hostage negotiation unfold, you have to understand that the 150 that are being released, many of them first have never gotten a trial, right? This is
I thought all the ones
law.
being released right now had been convicted of crimes. Am I wrong on that?
So none of them have been. So they're all children. I think the youngest was like 14 up until 18, or up until 17. I want to say under 18.
That's not true at all.
And some are women as well.
Well, and also, even if they're children, I don't know if I care that much. I'm just, because they've all been convicted of like certain crimes. Like, there have been
convicted under military law, as opposed to
fair. Okay,
Israeli law.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
They're held to a different standard, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Just as a real quick point, they're not all children. They're 18-year-olds, and it's under 19, which is what they did, and some of them are 18-year-old males who have been convicted of terrorist activities.
Gotcha. So
what does terrorist activities mean?
On AP News,
what is the definition of terrorist activities?
One example could be like walking up to a person and stabbing them in the back. Another example could be trying to convicted of attempting to explode themselves, like in a suicide bombing.
Real quick, I see that in exchange, 150 Palestinian prisoners were released by Israel, mainly teenagers detained over the past years for rock throwing and other minor offenses. So that's an AP News article. I don't know how reliable it is, but just as a...
No, there's certainly a decent amount of them who are detained without conviction, and there's certainly a decent amount of them who were just detained for rock throwing. That's not all of them, and there are...
Okay, I'm curious, one case of one of these 150 that was convicted of trying to blow themselves up or trying to stab somebody. Sure. Just one name.
Yeah. No.
Wait, do we have a list of names of these people?
There's a list of 300 names. Yes.
How are there 300 names when 150 are being traded?
Because the agreement is it can keep going. Whereas for every one Israeli hostage released beyond the 50, the Israelis will release 3 additional on a day-by-day basis. So it goes up to 100 total hostages released by Hamas.
Huh.
Yeah, I've seen a list of the ages, the names, and the offenses. I don't have that on hand, but I'd have to get that. But when I did see that, of course, both sides. One side will show the part of the list that only looks at the rock throwing, and the other side will only show the list that looks at the terrorist convictions.
Let's look at. I'm curious to see that list and seeing how much were actually convicted of murder, or again, any kind of attack, stabbing that didn't result in murder, and how many of those were actually just like minor offenses, like waving a Palestinian flag, throwing a rock, gathering in a group of more than 10 people, like anything like that.
Just as a heads up, I don't know if these people are confirmed as part of the release deal or why they're saying these people could be released. It could be that the news articles are just guessing, or they've got like a list of the names. But like, here's 2. One was a Palestinian woman disfigured in attempted suicide bombing, and the other one was a woman who was convicted of stabbing her neighbor. But go ahead.
Yeah. Exactly.
Although I think it is worth noting, though, that was said was if these people are convicted via military tribunal, that conviction word means a lot different than what it means in the United States, which is like through fair court and trial with a beyond a reasonable doubt, conviction by a jury of peers. Well, I don't know how that works.
The stabbing was on video. I think the stabbing was on video, though. Pretty sure.
Okay, it might be. Okay, sure. I'm trying to listen. I'm doing my best here. Fuck you. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't have to look at these now. I was writing 2 examples. But yeah. Okay. Go.
No. So out of the 150, I'm curious to. So first of all, to your point, they're all going through military court. They have different laws for different people there. So if you throw a rock as an Israeli settler, you're not going to go to prison for 10 years. Okay. One, and how many of those prisoners are being held without trial? Not for months, for years. I mean, it's clearly an unfair system, right? You're under occupation, right? It's fucked. That's one. And I mean, you're pointing out this one example, like these couple of examples. I would say the vast majority of these prisoners are, again, for minor offenses, as stated by AP that you just read. I think harping on those, like, the most extreme cases is unfair.
Yeah, this might not be representative.
regardless-
I was just like finding examples because Avi brought these up and I was curious.
Yeah, and another thing is, like, again, it goes back to armed resistance.
We should assume it either way what the proportion is until we actually go through the list. I mean, because
I'm going based off of what Destiny just said in the AP, saying that a majority of minor offenses. That's what I just heard. I don't know. Maybe I'm like mishearing things.
Yeah, I don't know what minor. Yeah, I'd go through the list. I mean, look, it could be, maybe it is 60%. It makes a big difference with like 90. If it's like 95% to 90%, like throwing stones. Like that, it's a big difference between like 55% threw stones, and then you have like all these other ones that like stabbed, planted bombs and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know the proportions. I do know that there's clearly certain examples of egregious actions. And they're not all minors, at least in the way that we understand that term. They're certainly not all in what we would understand as quote-unquote children.
Were they minors when they were actually convicted of these, or when they were arrested for these crimes?
Yeah,
I'm actually curious about that. Like, if you're 19 and you got arrested when you were 12, like, it's
Yeah.
kind of
I just what's being claimed is that all of the released ones are currently either women or children. Like that's and that was the understanding of what it would be until like it was found out later that by minors we really mean like under 19 and 18 is okay even if you're male. So not exactly children.
Sure, okay. Yeah, so I know we're almost at time, but I do want us to eventually go over these military orders that the Palestinians are subjugated to, and I want to give you plenty of evidence of the IDF fucking up civilians pretty bad intentionally, and them getting off basically scot-free. I don't even know if you have to spend time on that if you disagree with that's happening.
I know that it's happened. I think you've even shown me at least one example of it happening.
Yeah, so I can show you tens of examples of this happening, but if it's a waste of time, then I'm not gonna do it.
What would be the point of that? What are you trying to prove there?
A reason why they have the right to resist, right? A reason why this is so fucked in the head. And I'm also going to get to how in the past 15 years there's been zero attempt by Israel to like think of a solution, and why there's been several attempts by Arabs and Palestinians to try to come up with a solution.
Oh, okay. Well,
then
here's two questions. Okay, so one, would you say the majority of the violence in the Second Intifada was justified?
Okay, right now I'm focused on the last 15 years. Period.
Okay, well, we can't go 23 years. Well, because I think the Second Intifada is probably pretty heavily dictates the last, like that's our launching point probably for the Gaza Strip being militarized by Hamas. Yeah, go ahead.
Look. Let's pin this. Let's talk. I want to talk through the Second Intifada with you too. Like, what was the reason they started it? What was the goal? Was it just? We can talk about all of that.
Okay.
Just looking at the facts right now. There's a population, and even like night raids that happen in the West Bank where they just fucking break into people's houses at 2 a.m. Soldiers to take pictures of kids. Like, I can send you pictures of that.
Sure.
Like,
there's also night raids where they break in to try to find like stashes of weapons that are going to be used for terrorist attacks that are going to be happening in the future as well. I mean, right?
soldiers themselves say that they break into these with like zero intelligence, and it's like something they call make their presence felt. And this all happened after the Second Intifada, I believe. This started after the Second Intifada, so it's important that we talk about that. But yeah, occupation is fucking fucked. The past 15 years, there has been absolutely no attempt at peace for the Palestinian people. And it seems like now that they're talking about, like, you see Biden talking about it, I mean, you're just making the case for Hamas. Like, see, now that we've been violent, now they're talking about a state again. Whereas in 2006, when even Hamas, right, they were like, hey, we agreed to a 67 borders. We agreed to a 50-year truce with Israel on these 67 borders and move, like, there's been no attempt, is what I'm saying, in the past 15 years to actually solve this. And Netanyahu went as far as saying, we're happy to create a Palestinian state as long as Israel can continue building settlements there.
Where
completely unhinged.
I don't know what, I would have to see the quote on that.
Absolutely. If you go to the peace process and go through the Wikipedia article from Madrid conference all the way till today, anytime in the last 15 years.
Oh, wait. On that last statement, Madrid Conference is 91. I'm curious what Netanyahu has said. We want to build more settlements on a Palestinian state.
Sure.
I'm curious.
Okay.
Number one, and then number two, I'm curious, can you give me something maybe for me to read onto? Can you give me one or two times that Palestinians have pushed massively for peace in the past 15 years?
Abbas Peace Plan 2014 was one, and there's one from like the Arab League as well, and there's one I believe in 2013, 2014 when the Palestinians agreed to the John Kerry's parameters. I don't know if you've read through that one in detail or not. But
I've read the 6 John Kerry parameters, which seem fine, but
yeah, and Israeli, the Benjamin Netanyahu pretty much was like, this is fucking like, this is an attack on Israel. Like, how fucking dare they even attempt to make a state? Abbas's peace plan is one, but I want to give you specifically like where Netanyahu said that quote, because I don't want you to think I'm lying. So let me try to find it. Yeah, so in the 2010 talks in June 2009, I'm going to send you this article while I read. This is a Wikipedia article. Reacting to the U.S. Barack Obama's Cairo address, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared for the first time conditional support for a future Palestinian state.
Hold on, let me check. Control.
2010 Direct Talks. 2010 Direct Talks is the title of the thing.
And what was the line you were just reading?
Literally the first sentence I started reading from the 2010 Direct Talks.
Okay, in June 2009, that one?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
You want me to read it, or you can read it?
I'm reading it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, this looks fucking retarded.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, Benjamin Netanyahu has zero interest in a Palestinian state, and unfortunately, it's been this case since basically 2010.
Sure, although
there's been like
on the
zero fucking attempts.
On the front of this, okay, this might seem Weasley, but and we can go into a deeper argument if you want. I would make the argument that there is a severe difference. This is something I've noticed in studying this conflict. There's a severe difference between statements that leaders make to the world versus like what actually happens in negotiations behind the scenes. So like, for instance, if Netanyahu had come to the table with Abbas under Obama or Kerry's leadership to negotiate a plan, and Netanyahu was like, okay, well, here's the Israeli proposal. Okay, you guys are demilitarized. We can keep expanding settlements, blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, this is unhinged, right? But I'm saying that like apparently Barack Obama made an address in Egypt. I don't know what he said, but then in response to that address, Netanyahu was like, well, fine, we'll accept the Palestinian state, but we're gonna do this and blah, 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 blah. That's a lot different than these were the negotiations that both sides engaged in, I would say.
Right? I believe that this, and I could be wrong, I believe that this did lead to direct talks. Whether or not like the things that you say publicly, you're watching that Saudi Arabian whatever guy, right? I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's shit you're saying publicly. Did that actually happen behind closed doors? We don't know.
Well, no, it's that like you make statements publicly to like send messages to your citizens and to the rest of the world, but like the actual negotiations that are happening are going to be a lot different. Like, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Sadat had made many harsh statements about Israel. And I mean, Egypt, you had the Yom Kippur War, which was a war of destruction potentially for Israel. But he was the leader that ended up ultimately negotiating a peace deal with Israel, right? The first Arab nation to do so. It was a really, obviously, a monumental deal. So even though he had made all these statements publicly to shore up support in the Arab world, to make himself look strong, blah, 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 when actual negotiations time came, it looked, what actually was being said behind closed doors was a lot different.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying, like, there's been some fucking pretty unhinged shit coming from the Israeli government.
Sure, I don't deny. I would believe that. Yeah, I would believe that 100%. Yeah,
and like literally genocidal statements, where if any other country was saying shit like that, you'd be like, okay, well, that's kind of fucking weird. And
yeah, no, I agree.
Been like a country invading them, and there hasn't been like other countries trying to eradicate them. Like that was the case
recently,
in 48, right?
Yeah. I can agree with that, but I mean, like, again, just to be clear, because I'm looking for, like, this wasn't Netanyahu responding to a peace attempt, a peace negotiation by Palestinians. This was a public statement that Netanyahu made in response to a Barack Obama public statement that, like, wasn't about, like, a direct negotiation, So, I'm curious, what real negotiations...
Yeah. Okay, so let's
like as a real quick thing, I was
time.
looking at this 2013, 2014 talks, and I see that like Hamas is saying the entire time that like we reject the Kerry bullshit. Abbas has literally no legitimacy to even negotiate in the name of the Palestinian people. We're the true Palestinian government. Fuck him. So if that's the case, that like the whole of the Gaza Strip is
you're in so many different places, and I want to like bring us in. So I asked you to do a few things. I asked you to look into the history of Hamas, okay, and see when they actually started targeting civilians via suicide bombings, because there was like a shift that happened. I encourage you to read about that. I encourage you to read about like what their stances was post-election when they won, when they immediately said we recognize two-state solution. They sent a letter to the Israeli leaders and Bush. I encourage you to read through that. I think it's important when we discuss Gaza as a whole. And I encourage you to like look at peace talks in the past 15 years, okay, and try to understand what's happening in the West Bank and whether or not 67 borders is really the starting point, or should be the starting point based on the last 20 years. Because I think your research kind of stops at some point, right? So I encourage you to like dig through those a bit more, and we can talk tomorrow or the day after, or whatever works for you. If you still want to talk about this,
always just bring me stuff and we can read it on stream. Fuck it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I think I'll leave you with this last point. I think one thing I know you're familiar with the Cave of Patriarchs massacre.
Yep.
And when that happened, actually, there was reports and eyewitness reports of Israeli soldiers shooting the people that were running away, and Hamas took that moment as an excuse to start suicide bombing civilians.
Hold on, that's all total bullshit.
I mean, read
Number
through
one,
it.
I did. I believe that shooting was by Goldberg or Golds.
No, yeah, he was the initial.
I think it was
there
in
was
1993 in response to the Oslo Accords near Hebron, right? It was him. He did the shooting. I think there were one or two people like, oh, we might have seen IDF soldiers, but that I don't think there was any proof of that.
IDF soldier accounts. Go read the IDF soldier accounts in that same massacre. Read through it, and you'll see it. But I agree that Goldstein fucker, he's the one that did like 99% of the damage. I'm just saying.
I haven't seen any credible thing that IDF soldiers were shooting at people too. But okay.
There was IDF. So I think there was no disagreement that there was IDF soldiers nearby. One, they could have shot his ass down. Right. That's the argument that's being made. Two, some of them actually said there was shooting, but the shooting was in the air. To like kind of, they weren't sure what was happening, right? They were like kind of freaking out, like why are all these people running out? Didn't know what was going on. So,
okay, link me that when you get it tomorrow or whatever. We can go over it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if you just look up the entire like Wikipedia article on Hamas, like from front to we can like talk about that. And and like they're saying like we agreed to stop targeting civilians if Israel agrees to stop targeting civilians, and obviously Israel's like fuck Hamas, we're not talking to you guys, and they're like all right, well then fuck you guys. So. And I just want to end this with saying I don't fucking believe civilians need to die. I feel like I wish that everyone in that region just lives freely and openly and like has the right to self-determination. So I don't want my words to be misconstrued in any way.
Well, yeah, but you're also a one-state cuck, so.
Well, I'm a one-state cuck in an ideal world, but I'm a realistic two-state person, right? I think that's the only real solution, even though in an ideal world, two states or one state, everyone is just like side by side and happy, and Jews can live in the West Bank and Hebron, and Palestinians can live in Tel Aviv and Haifa. Like, that's obviously an ideal world.
Okay. Can I, as a broader thing, and I'm probably going to start building, because my arguments tend to be more destructive instead of constructive, okay? That's something I need to work on, okay? Something we might do in either next argument or the one after. Do you recognize that when we talk about this conflict, there's a whole bunch of lip service that goes into justifying why Palestinians might be doing horrible things, but it feels like we treat Israeli people like they need to rise above and just be held to like such a higher, different standard, despite their kind of tumultuous like history in the region as well? Or
so we can talk about that. My argument is going to be that the occupation is the starting point of this problem, like the recent problem. I think the maintenance of the occupation is breeding more violence.
Okay, but do you recognize that if you do that starting point, no Israeli person is ever listening to you? Because they're going to say, okay, well, you basically...
Forget that stuff.
Sure.
Forget that starting point. We can start in 48. We can start, like, because I feel like the founding of Israel was unjust to begin with. I'm happy to start as far back as you want to go. But I'm just saying
not that far back, because the only reason the Palestinians were there because of Ottoman conquest and everything, too, or whatever, right? So... Yeah, exactly. You don't want to go that far back, right?
Go far back enough where the ancient Egyptians should come take their land back, or the Romans should come take the land back. But yeah, I agree. But I'm saying that violence is happening because of something, not for no reason, right? That's what I'm saying.
I agree. But occupation is also happening because of something and not for no reason either, right?
I disagree. I don't think occupation is happening for no reason. I think Israel in the past 15 years has showed they have no interest in giving Palestine a state, and I want you to challenge me on this, and that they have plans to annex the entirety of Palestine and make the entire thing under Israeli sovereignty.
Sure, but like, how could you ever make the argument that prior to the 67 war, like Israel was always going to invade and take those territories?
I mean, Benny Morris actually makes a lot of that argument. If you not that they're going to take over the territory, but the Israeli military was always very opportunistic. So what I mean by that is like, oh, 3 guys were kidnapped and killed in 2014, we're invading Gaza. Or,
yeah, I'm not going to deny that the military is opportunistic, but the reason why they were is because they felt like the only way they could ever win like respect from surrounding countries was through like military strength. So of course they were opportunistic because they felt like it was the only way to justify their existence.
Prior to 48, the very big pro-Zionist claim was there was a land, had no people in it, we took it over. And then after that, it changed until about the 80s. And the new claim was Arab leaders told them to leave. And then the military archives were released after whatever, I think it was like the 40-year law that Israel has to release them. Benny Morris and a bunch of the new historians came in and are like, okay, well, yeah, there was a fucking expulsion. And this shit was like, seemed to be like a lie. Nakba never existed, and Israel, I think, even tried to ban the word Nakba or acknowledge it in any way. And I also want us to eventually get to different rights for Arabs or Jews and non-Jews in Israel. Not that it really matters; shit happens all around the world, but it's still worth noting. Like, it's acknowledging that Israel is kind of like trying to maintain a state based on ethnicity is kind of wrong, always. Jews probably have the best case for it, but it's still like kind of wrong.
Wrong by what? On what definition?
On if you're not Jewish and you live in that country, you're not allowed to like live.
Or no, just like on a like that's what the worldwide definition of like why that's wrong. What is like this absolute moral, I guess, like statement of like this type of thing is always wrong. I'm just curious like why that rests on like how you
I mean, this could be just personal in my opinion, but I think like any state where one people have different rights than another people is kind of fucked.
Oh,
whether it's a Muslim
hold on, I'm
country,
sorry.
Christian
Different
country,
rights, I would probably agree with. Sure, depending on how.
No, rights. As in like I know there's, and you can look this up because I'll probably bring it up to you next time. But there's laws in Israel that prevents non-Jews from living in certain areas, and I think the JNF is probably the biggest culprit of this, where any land they own, which is 13% of all of Israel, the Jewish, what they call the Jewish character, cannot change in those areas. Also, I recommend you looking up the nation state law in Israel that gives like full self-determination to Jews. But you should look into these certain things. Now, I don't want to argue so much about what's happening inside of Israel, but I want you to know that it is kind of if we were to flip it to say like whites and blacks, it would sound much worse than when we say Jews and non-Jews within Israel. And I'm talking about Israeli citizens here. I will leave you to that. You can go look at research into. I know I just like info dumped on you, but we can talk about this more, like a concise way, or like the way we're doing and just jumping around topic to topic.
Yeah, whatever you do, whatever you bring. You can like make a little outliner. You can have like notes and sources that we can stay on whatever particular topic you want, and yeah. I think the main thing I'm gonna fight you on is the 242 being a starting point, and I know you disagree with that, but yeah. Okay.
I'll bring things. Feel better.
Yep. I love you, buddy. Be careful.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Oh, you're still... Avi, are you actually even fucking Israeli or Jewish, or do you just do this shit to troll on Twitter?
Oh, I'm just trolling it. No, I'm Jewish.
Oh, okay. I don't fucking know. Why is it funny? How am I supposed to know that? What?
My name is Avi.
Is that a... Oh, Avi Shlam. Oh, never mind. You're right. That is a Jewish name. I don't know. Okay. I thought it was like fucking short for Avatar or some shit. Jesus. Okay. Fuck you.
My last name is Bitterman, by the way.
Oh, true. That's right. Is that a Jewish name?
Yes, I have the most Jewish first and last name, like one of the most, like short of like Schmeckelstein or something. Like, I mean, come on, dude.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess a couple of things. I think I don't know if he was referring to the new Hamas through its documents when he talked about like.
Oh my god! I just Hamas. Had a fucking brain blast, Avi. But sorry, I'm sorry. Just keep newer. when people argue against an ethno-state because they think that it's bad to preserve a certain type of character or whatever, I wonder how those people feel about what do you call it when a whole bunch of gentrification? I'm so curious how they reconcile those stances. I'm sorry, that's okay. That just blew my mind apart. Okay, go ahead. Tell me what you were saying. Hamas charter. Go ahead.
No, I can touch on what you're saying, like a little bit. So wait, is what you're talking about? Well, just complete that thought that you were getting at with the ethno state, with gentrification. Like what?
So the macro level argument I would make is the reason why. Number one, the reason why ethnostates are cringe from a United States citizen point of view is because the United States has no like binding ethnicity. Like we're clearly, and Nazis can cope, but like we're clearly like a multi-ethnic, multi-background, multi-immigrant. Like there's just so much shit going on in the U.S. It's kind of hard to imagine like a demographic threat to this country. Unless you're like a 2-inch fucking neo-Nazi kid or whatever. So it's weird to imagine from the West. It's very easy to quickly say like, well, this is unethical. Why the fuck would you have ethnostates? But that's one. Number two is I think there probably actually are a lot of de facto ethno-states around the world. There's just not like a lot of people immigrating there. Like I'm sure, I could be wrong, maybe I'm being racist, but like I'm sure that if we look into a ton of different African countries, I bet that there's a really high concentration of certain ethnicities, but like you're not going to see like 50 million people of a different ethnicity, like especially like a white or Asian or Hispanic one, try to like move into that country. But if you did, I bet that you would see a lot of people like being like, hold up, you're not going to have 50 million people from Mexico immigrating, into fucking Ghana. We're not doing that, chief, right? They're going to like actually push back on that. That'd be my guess. So two, there's probably a lot of de facto ethnostates. Or sorry, what were you going to say?
You mean like what's happened, like something like Japan, right?
I don't know enough Japanese history to even say.
I think that like a huge amount of the demographic in Japan is Japanese, as opposed to like any other ethnicity, and I think they do certain things. I'm not an expert on Japanese culture, but I think there are certain things that they do to sort of keep things along that.
Yeah.
I think there are, I think there are certain countries that, while they may not be explicit about like, it doesn't really may not be explicit about ethnicity per se, and here's like the specifics. They sort of might proxy things, like even the ethnicity sort of laws in Israel are like when they say Jewish, that's strictly speaking that is the religious definition, and not that they don't do a 23andMe test to see if you're Jewish or not.
Sure.
They're not checking your genes. They're not checking your heritage. You could convert, and if your conversion is through like some recognized quote legitimate conversion, you could be of any ethnicity, and you get that right to return. Yeah. It's just the issue is that sort of proxies some sort of ethnicity in practice, and so really what's being proxied in a lot of these cases is some sort of set of beliefs or something, like some sort of value, some sort of set of beliefs with respect to how one behaves, how one acts, what one's allegiances are to a given state. And I suspect a lot of countries, if they found these proxies that were so, concordant with just diametrically opposed values that they want to have and diametrically opposed beliefs that they want people to have, and then it started really becoming a huge demographic issue, there might be more sympathies to things that we would consider ethnic cleansing or anything along those lines.
Sure.
Yeah. So okay. I see where that's coming. But the point is that it's what's ultimately being targeted here. I don't think is like someone's genes. I don't think it's like, well, we really care about like this base pair sequence, like, and it's like if only, or even like someone's like skin color or anything like that. I don't think that's the ultimate thing that's being targeted here. I think these things are, to whatever degree they're targeted, they're targeted as a proxy for something else, and they're just used as a proxy for something else. And what people see is like, oh, well, in practice, this just means that those features are just going to be acted upon, and that's like a really bad thing, right?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you've read this. So one of the things that was mentioned, I don't know if this was being referred to, like Hamas's statements right after they won the election. Have you read? I think that I'm not sure, but I think I might be referring to A New Hamas Through Its Documents by Khalid Rub. I don't know if you've read that one.
Or if not, but go ahead.
Yeah, and basically, like the argument I've heard is that basically, okay, well, they signified like an agreement to like some sort of like two-state solution. it signified some. It was like basically a little bit less of a radical type of statement than their initial charter that they came out with.
Yeah, which was unhinged. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not saying much. Of course, the issue with all of that is that if you actually look at their new quote unquote charter, it's not a charter, it's their new statement.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sentiment that they're doing these sorts of agreements, and you could read this yourself and judge for yourself. It's called A New Hamas Through Its New Documents. That's the title of this. So you can make that judgment for yourself when you read it, but there seems to be a lot of lip service to like, well, we're really just doing this for pragmatic reasons, but it's like the moment like we have like this opportune time to like go for the full one state, and you know, from the river to the sea, blah blah blah, all Palestine. You know, we have that right to do so, and we will do so, basically. So yes, it's true that technically speaking, yes, they begrudgingly or pragmatically agree to this two-state solution. It's kind of like the JK type of agreement. Like, just kidding. Like, once we have the opportunity, we're going full one state.
Sure, that might be the case. I just have to. I would need to read the statements. Yeah.
Yeah. Go. Read that. That was my.
That was my impression. My impression is like, okay, well, yes, you're agreeing it for pragmatic reasons, but there's also like a number of statements in there that are just like, no, we still have the right to all of this shit. Yeah. And then the other thing I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. First off, the 15,000 number you mentioned, I think we're basically there. So I don't think that number. We're at 14,854. So I mean, yeah, we're at 15,000. I don't think it's 15 or 20. So there's that. But that's whatever. It's fine. The other thing I wanted to mention is like when people say international community, they're generally referring to the UN. And I don't think you'll disagree with this, but the sentiment of the international community of the UN, you can have like a consensus of the UN on a given agreement or whatever starting point, whatever that means. That being the consensus may play into its being pragmatic, but it certainly doesn't mean that it is pragmatic.
Sure. I don't even know necessarily if like UN statements or resolutions are supposed to even necessarily be pragmatic, right? It might just be like sending a statement or making an opinion or something known on something.
Yeah. So like when people say this thing like, okay, well, 1967, because I'll just be honest about like my view on 1967 borders. I think 1967 borders are like, they're certainly worse borders, but the 1967 borders I think are really stupid. I don't think they're conducive to peace. I don't think they have a track record of being conducive to peace, and they also just like, for my priors, they just don't make sense. But that's a different conversation. But I think people have like an ideological attachment to the 1967 borders based on the international community, the UN. But if you look at the UN resolutions in terms of how like Israel is going to look at that organization, they have a whole bunch of reasons to just see them as a hostile entity at this point. Overall, the UN the UN still does not recognize Hamas as a terrorist organization. The UN, if you look at their resolutions, unilateral condemnations, there is no shortage of unilateral condemnations of all sorts of actions of Israel. If you look at the Wikipedia page of UN resolutions concerning Israel and UN resolutions concerning Palestine, on both of them, all of the unilateral resolutions of condemnation are against Israel. There is not a single UN resolution that they were able to pass unilaterally condemning Hamas ever in the entirety of their history for any of their terrorist activities ever, even though they were voted on. Every single resolution that has tried to vote on a unilateral condemnation of Hamas, even October 7th, has failed to pass in the UN. And the only way they were able to get it to pass was by changing the unilateral condemnation of condemning Hamas to
mutual condemnation of Israel and Hamas, or
yeah, exactly.
Sure.
For October 7th, that was the October 7th resolution.
Yeah.
To condemn Israel and Hamas. So when people say like, "Oh, hey, well, the reason we know like the international community has this consensus, that's where you can argue it, but that's where it is." Like that guy was saying, well, where is there? Is there the UN? Is there the UN that when October 7th happens, with the responses to condemn Israel and Hamas? Like that's where it is. Okay, maybe that is where it is. But fuck any country in that situation is going to go like, okay, well, keep it there and flush it down the toilet. Fuck that.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean that's basically it. So you can call it whatever you want. You can dress it up however you want. But as far as whether there's a consensus on whether that's an actual practical resolution, there's two very different questions. And if the consensus is seen, rightfully so, as basically a hostile entity by one of those people you have to negotiate with, it's probably the fact that they agree to it doesn't really give much reason to believe that is a practical solution.
Sure. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. Yeah.
All right, that's about all I got for now.
Okay.
All right.
Have you ever been to Israel before?
I was conceived in Israel.
Does that mean no?
Well, technically it means yes. It means the sperm hit the egg when I was in Israel.
I guess it depends on your definition of human life, huh? Not an abortion debate. Oh no. Have you seen me tweet out anything or talk about anything that you like heavily disagree on, or?
Well, we talked about that one thing. I think you're off on those numbers with the 15,000 and.
Oh, you think so? Yeah. I don't know, man. We'll see.
We're there.
Yeah, but there's also already really heavy pressure on Israel to stop everything, right?
And they've already basically said, "Fuck you guys, we're continuing."
Yeah, I guess. I'm gonna be real curious when Israel gears up for when. Do we have a date yet on when they plan to start marching into the south?
So it depends on. So the hostage release, last I checked, is expected to happen on Friday. It was initially expected to happen on Thursday, but the problem was I think there was pushback from Hamas on letting the Red Cross. Part of the agreement was letting the Red Cross see the other hostages, just like confirm they're alive and stuff.
Yeah.
But apparently that went a little bit south, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. It looks like part of that agreement at least has a little bit of pressure, or at least a little bit of like floundering. I'm not sure what the result of that will be, but that got pushed off at least one day. So if it happens on Friday, the expectancy as far as 4 days. However, there will be a day added if Hamas releases 10 additional hostages. So for 10 additional hostages, they get another day of the ceasefire.
Okay.
So depending on how long Hamas wants to prolong it, and depending how many hostages they have, or how many hostages they're willing to give up, they get an extra day for each one. So at minimum 4 days until Israel goes to the south, or at least continues operations, and until they run out of hostages, I guess. But there's been no indication so far that Israel, like at the end of all was said and done, is going to say like, okay, well, yeah, that's it, or we're being friends now, like, or something like that. Yeah, so we'll see. But I think we're already at 15,000, and we'll probably be at 20,000 pretty shortly.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. Love everybody. Be careful.
Take care.